Good evening and welcome to the May 5th, 2025 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Miriam Zahn and I'm the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken using the video and audio, so we need all speakers to utilize one of the microphones in the room. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Ms. Kotiga, please call the roll of the members.
Mr. Curran is excused. Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Ms. Chifo? Here. Mr. Feskins?
Here.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Here.
Mr. Nearing?
Here.
Chairman Loikis is excused. Vice Chair Zahn.
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. Mr. Ball advises the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Nicole Kotiga is a city employee and is acting as the zoning board's secretary. Our board secretary works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. The board secretary also does not vote on the applications. Also present are our experts who are hired annually by the board to provide input. Tonight, we have Marie Ruffet from Collier Engineering. Also present is Ed Snikes from Burgess Associates, our board planner. These experts are seated at the table to the right of the board, the public's left. They do not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Before we enter into executive session to vote on the application, you will be advised how many votes are required. Each case will begin with the applicants or their attorney giving an overview of the application process to date and the variances that are required. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board experts, followed by board members, may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and expert witnesses. Due to recent cases running excessively long, we strongly encourage applicants and their experts to give brief and concise testimony so that we can get to as many cases as possible in a given evening. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about this case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Please be careful as to how you phrase your questions. They should not be preceded with a statement about the case, but should be a direct question to the witness. Also, before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. At this time, I think we're going to just start with the applications. We're going to have a slight modification of the agenda. We're going to move 78 Essex to the end of the evening, and we'll start with 83 West End.
Good evening, Hillary Ulls from Dempsey, Dempsey & Sheehan, representing the applicant 83 West End Ave LLC regarding property located at 83 West End Avenue, Block 1403, Lot 17 in the R15 zone. The applicant proposes to improve the existing Cape Cod style home by updating and modernizing the home to provide a functional layout and improved aesthetic and curb appeal. The variances requested are for side yard setbacks of 9 feet 4 inches and 8 feet 9 inches, which are existing and proposed. Combined side yard of 31.2%, which is existing and proposed. Setback of the stairs on the west of the home of 5.9 feet. Front yard setback of 24 feet 4 inches to the home and 23 feet 1 inch to the front porch, and a garage width of 9 feet 8 inches where 10 feet is required. The variances requested are all a direct result of the narrowness of the lot, which is 32 feet less than what is required in the zone, the topography, the stream, which is a unique physical feature of the site, and the existing lawful structure. The presentation tonight will begin with Denise Bonfilio, a representative for the applicant, Bill Hollows, the civil engineer, Mark Marion, the architect, and John Peel, an environmental scientist and planner with an expertise in environmental land use. If there's any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them, and if not, I can call the first witness.
Are there any questions from our experts?
No questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay, so call your first witness,
Okay.
please.
Denise Bonfilio.
And I'll swear you in if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you just please state your name, spell your last name?
My name is Denise Bonfilio. It's B as in boy, O-N, F as in Frank, I-L-I-O.
Thank you.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a developer and construction manager, and I've GC'd in the state of California and Pennsylvania.
And have you developed any other properties in the city of Summit?
I've developed two, one on Beekman and one on Woodford.
And what is your relationship to the applicant of the subject property, and are you authorized to speak on the applicant's behalf?
We are business partners, and I'm absolutely authorized to speak on his behalf.
Can you tell the board what the goals and objectives are for this project?
Well, the goals are, it's a lovely Cape Cod, but it's not in keeping with what is, what people are seeking or what's good for today's living. The house was built in 1945. It's sort of outdated at this point, and the layout isn't really functional. Although it has 4 bedrooms, there's like 2. The Cape Cod is really a half story and downstairs. So we'd like to improve the existing home by upgrading and modernizing it and improving the layout so the home can have function in a way that better meets the contemporary needs of today's family, and designing an aesthetically attractive home that complements the eclectic neighborhood while also maintaining the existing yard setbacks. And we're staying within the parameters of what is permitted under the environmental constraints of the property. Myself and the architect went to great lengths. We are not improving beyond the current foundation. We are staying, it's a non-conforming lot, and we are, staying pretty much exactly in all disturbed areas. And just filling in the back left-hand corner, essentially, taking off but building up. We've put some wood elements into the front because I don't know if you're familiar with that area. The houses are pretty close together, but they have lovely bigger yards and that are kind of wooded and a lot of greenery, so we're trying to kind of complement that, and we've instituted that into our design.
And can you tell the board some of the challenges that this property presents?
Well, again, because it's non-conforming, There, you know, it is exactly where it is. It's the setbacks required now are 15 feet. We're at like 11 something on one side now, and 9 something, I think, on the other side at its narrowest point. But again, in that area, all we are doing is adding a second story. We are not encroaching at all into those side yards. And that's mainly the reason. I mean, we like to put a covered porch, so there's a couple of feet that we're extending from the current house, just to give it, a little nicer overhang and give the house a more aesthetically pleasing as well as functional appeal.
And the reason the house is located farther forward is because of the stream that runs through.
That is correct. There's quite a large piece of, all the houses on West End are where, well, the stream varies, so anywhere the house is behind, they're pretty set forward. And actually, the one side of the street is set far more forward than the houses not on the stream side. They're set about 5 or 6 feet on average back than the houses are on the stream side.
And have there been any improvements or changes to the property since the date of the survey that was submitted in connection with this application?
No.
And have you had any conversations with any of the neighbors?
I have. I've had a conversation with two of the neighbors, really. And there was one of the fence that's existing that I think is probably her fence, but it's in a lot of disrepair. And we spoke this evening, and she was asking me if I intended on doing anything. And I said yes, in actuality I was, because if we're building this new house, no offense, but we would like to improve, and she was very excited by that. And she was very much in favor of us replacing that fence with something right exactly where it is, but it's just kind of not in the best shape right now. She also asked me if I would consider putting any sort of arborvitae or something there, and sure, I have no issues with putting a couple of arborvitae we're not really changing it, but if that's what she wants, we're absolutely fine putting some arborvitae in.
So as long as it's an appropriate location and that they'll actually grow, then you're fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or we'll put some form of, I understand she'd like a little screen if possible.
Some type of screening.
Some type of screen, and we have zero issues with not providing her with the screen.
Excellent. And did you retain any experts to help in the preparation and presentation of this application?
I did. I have Mark Marion, who's an architect. I initially hired Dave Fantina, who couldn't be present tonight, but Bill Hollows has been more than gracious in filling in, and he's been to the property and going up. And then John Peel, who's an expert with DEP and water issues, a scientist, and is also here.
Excellent. I don't have any other questions.
Any questions from the experts?
No, I don't have any questions.
Just 2 questions, Chairwoman. Regarding the fence, which side of the property is that?
On the left-hand side.
Left side?
This is going towards 85. That is correct.
Okay, and then also the plantings would also be on that left side?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then also you may want to consider whether or not that the arborvitae, talk with John Linson, whether or not that's appropriate for deer tolerance. in
Right.
that area.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
No further questions.
Questions from the board? I just have one, and then maybe it's for, I don't know if it's for you or the architect, but there was a comment from the HPC, the Historic Preservation Committee, about.
The architect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Any questions from the public? Is there any public here for this application? Why don't we? There is. Okay. Thank you.
Hi there.
I'm actually like a neighbor, so yeah.
Okay.
Actually, was real curious about this case because I live in 81 West End.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Okay, so do you want to?
Just to be clear, after each witness, we're going to have an opportunity for public questions from that witness on their testimony. And at the very end of this case, anyone who's here who has an interest in the application will be able to give their comment, their sworn testimony about this case. So if you have opinions, you could save that for later. If you have questions for each particular witness, come up after they're done and ask them. Please come up to the microphone.
Good evening, and thank you. I'm Elizabeth Woodall, and we live at 92 West End, so diagonally across the street, and have been residents of the neighborhood for over 25 years. So my question is actually about the exterior and the representation of the aesthetic change. Right now, it is a clapboard painted yellow with standard wood shutters. I'm curious to know what the exterior intentions are of the aesthetic to the community, because we have one outstanding house that doesn't sort of fit, and kind of everything else is sort of within line of what that aesthetic is.
So
And
I
that
think
wasn't clear.
the architect could probably answer that question better. If that's okay.
So put it out there. Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Elizabeth Wynn. I live at 85 West End Avenue. I've lived there about 27 years. Had a question on storm water management and sump pump discharge.
So I'm gonna stop you and just tell you that the engineer is coming up next, and he's gonna talk about that if you wanna ask him the question. Or you can ask the question and he can answer it in his direct testimony.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the developer? No? Okay, so we'll move to the next witness, please,
Bill Hollows.
or expert.
All right, if you could raise your right hand, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
William Hollows. Hollows is Hollows.
Thank you, and I know you've appeared before our board a number of times, including recently. Your credentials were accepted at that time. I imagine any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
No.
All right, I imagine the board would like to accept you back once again.
Can you explain what steps you took to prepare yourself to give expert testimony in this matter?
I reviewed the plans prepared by the architect. I reviewed a letter prepared by the engineer regarding the grade plane. I visited the site, and we had a meeting with the team, basically, to go over the application.
And you've also reviewed the administrative reviews, and you're familiar with the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, and can you describe the existing conditions of the site for the board and explain what is proposed from a civil engineering perspective, recognizing that because of the minimal increase in lot coverage, that no grading plan was required?
It is out. Probably have to share a couple here. But that is a rendered existing conditions plan.
Are we sharing?
So this is A1.
I'll see how many we have.
Okay.
This is good?
Yes.
We could share it.
So this would be Exhibit A1.
Yes.
Yeah, I made this on a handout size sheet because it fits the property that we're actually, the piece of property that we're actually going to work on, or the proposed renovation to the home is. And north of B on the West End Avenue side, to the bottom of the drawing is the west, and that's where the title block is, and to the east is to the top of the drawing. And the railroad, which isn't shown here, but that goes off quite a distance to the right of the drawing that you're looking at. But this is existing conditions. It shows the existing house as it sits there today. It's labeled two-story, but it is a Cape Cod. It's really, some people call it two stories. I generally call it 1.5 story, but this is a drawing from the surveyor that we put together to render. You've got the paved drive on the west side. It goes into a single-car garage. Got a walkway that goes to the front door. And the lighter color to the back of the house is a wood deck. And that's on the upper story or first floor. And this is a lot that is more or less a kind of walkout to the back. And under that wood deck is a paver patio. And then to the right of that is the stream that goes through many of the properties here. And you've got a footbridge to go from one side to the other. And just to give you an idea, on the railroad side of the property, it's a lawn area with some scattered trees, and as you get closer to the railroad, there's a few more trees. There is one tree on the area on this drawing, and that sits basically on a right-of-way line about in the middle of the lot. I believe that to be a calorie pear tree. And then you've got foundation plantings that are in the front of the property.
And can you just go through the topography? You might have
Yeah,
outlined
the
just-
property slopes from West End Avenue back towards the stream. I checked, there's no steep slopes that I saw on this. Maybe a little close, but it doesn't qualify as a steep slope area. And then on the other side, as it indicated, is relatively flat when you get on the other side until you get back towards the railroad, then it rises a little bit.
But it slopes about 9 feet, right, from the,
Yes, from the front
To
to
the
the
stream.
front to the stream.
okay, and what is proposed?
Well, we have another drawing for that.
Perfect. That'll be A2. I have it. I'll hand one to the neighbors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the proposed conditions drawing. It's the same base drawing as you have, but with colored a little bit differently. The darker brown area is building addition. In this case, it's a building addition in the rear. It's a reduction of the patio, or of the deck. And then in the front, as noted before, that's something to dress up the front facade of the building to make it a little nicer looking. Again, the driveway stays the same. The garage is going to be extended. That's a little dark area. On the right side of the building, you've got a garage that goes to the back now. It's a little bit deeper, 23 feet deep. And regarding stormwater management, all of the roof leader drains, with the exception of one, are piped to the top of the bank of the stream. There are 5 different pipes that come out visually. If you walk to the other side of the property, go across the footbridge, and you can see the 5 pipes there. They're 4-inch PVC pipes. They collect the roof leader drains, and that one exception is on the east side of the property, about in the middle of the building. You've got a leader drain that comes down to a splash block. And then the slope is back towards the stream. So there's no water that goes to the neighbors in this instance. And our increase in impervious coverage is 93 square feet. So the proposed building addition is over, for the most part, over the paver patio and over the deck that was there before. And you'll hear more detail from the architect on what the building is going to look like.
And then can you just confirm that the lower level is not considered a story above grade?
Well, we have another handout for that.
Okay.
We did a grade plane drawing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a grade plane drawing showing the proposed building. And 6 feet out from that building, we show elevations. And going through the calculations, we come up with that this is not considered a story, the basement. It's close. We're at 51% of the floor area meets the criteria that it's not a basement, a story, and it's 49%. So it's close, but we
For
did this.
purposes of the application, it is not a story above.
It's not a story, but grade. And just a little background, when I got involved in this, there was a letter prepared by another engineer that was submitted with the application, and our numbers come out basically the same.
And you agree that there is no grading plan that's required?
No, I think the amount of grading that's going to take place is really backfilling around the foundation that for the addition in the rear. I don't really see any other need for grading back there. As far as stormwater management, as this building gets constructed and the roof leaders come down, I would suggest that they just tie into what's there already. It seems to be functioning, and again, it comes at the top of the bank. It's not down low towards the bottom of the bank of that stream, but it's at the top. And visually, I did not see any erosion. I know it hasn't rained in a while, but I didn't see any erosion from any of those pipes. You know, it's got a lot of stone on the banks of that stream.
And the limit of disturbance will be determined and updated on the plan, is that correct?
Yeah, if this plan was approved by the board, in order to get a building permit, the applicant would have to prepare a grading plan and submit it to the building department and also the engineering department. And that grading plan would include a soil erosion sediment control plan. I roughly estimated about 2,400 square feet of disturbance, and that includes, it's not, soil conservation, sometimes I don't agree with them, sometimes I do, but if we drive over it in order to get, say, from the front of the street, West End Avenue, to the back where probably more of the construction is going to take place, we have an area where we could actually bring the material down for construction. Facing the house would be on the left side where that wood fence is. We would have to move one lilac bush, but there's no other shrubbery along that side of the house. There are some foundation plantings in the front of the house, which most likely, after the construction, would need to be replaced.
And the applicant will be replacing those, correct?
Correct.
And then in terms of the lot coverage and building coverage and FAR, they're well under what is permitted in the zone, is that correct?
The lot is 20,293 square feet, and we're not even close as far as lot coverage for this.
16.33% to be exact. Building coverage is 10.24%, and FAR is 16.18%. And then can you just run through the variances quickly for the board?
The first variance I had listed is a front yard setback variance. And again, this is an existing dwelling. If you look at my drawings, both of the existing conditions, proposed conditions, the front facade of our house lines up with the houses on either side. You know, it's not like you would drive down the street and see anything that's really different. than what's there now, other than it's going to have a new facade. But as far as setbacks, it's very, very close. If we were to put it back at 35 feet, then there would be a difference, because those houses are more like 25 feet, similar to what we have.
And what is the average front yard setback?
The average front yard setback is 28.3.
Thank you.
And we're required the 35 feet. The existing is 26.33 feet, or 26 feet 4 inches. The architect's plan is in inches. And then there's a stoop that comes out, and that's at 23 feet 4 inches. And all of the side yard setbacks for this house, the existing ones are in violation of the zoning as it is today. There are existing non-conforming conditions. And the new setbacks are very, very similar to what's there. I mean, we're building right on that same footprint, just extending it a little bit more. And with the angle of the house and the jog in the building, the new addition is even further away from the side yard setback.
And then what about the side steps on the west?
Side steps on the west will be in violation, and it's 5 feet 10.5 inches off the property line.
And steps can encroach into the side yard 4 feet, not more than 4 feet. So they should be set back 11 feet. So they'll be set back, what was that, 5 feet?
Yeah, well, we're already in violation.
Right.
We already don't conform, so
Correct.
it'd be difficult to get that 11. But again, all this nonconformance as far as the side yard setback has to do with the 58-foot wide lot.
And the garage?
The garage. The garage is 9 foot 8 inches wide now. And we're going to extend you can't make it 10, or else we're again in more violation or exacerbate our side yard setback. So we're going to keep it at 9.8 feet wide, but make it a little bit deeper, 23.5.
But that requires a variance because 10 feet is.
Yes, 10 feet is required, and it's a technical variance for the width.
And then can you just go through what the distance to the neighboring properties are?
Yeah,
Conditions?
sure. If you look at either drawing existing conditions or non-conforming conditions, the house to the east, the one with the wood fence that had some discussion on, that house corner is 14 feet off the property line by scale. It's a little bit further, so we've got it 14 and 12, it goes 26 feet from house to house at the front. And then with the angle of the way the house is built and the road angle, as the house gets deeper, it's further away from the property line. And again, that's a solid wood fence. You really don't see that house very well. And then on the other side, or the west side, that house is a bit closer to the property line. It's 7.2 and 6.47. It's 7 feet 2 1/4 inches. If you want to go to inches, and then it's 6 feet 5 5/8. So, I think we're splitting hairs as far as that. It's just closer. But it seems to me when I was out there on the site doing my site investigation, was that there's more landscaping on that side, the west side of the property, between the house and our subject property.
And the area where the existing home is, and they're going to be 2 stories, that's 15 feet or greater, right, from the property line in the front part of the home?
Yes. It's you go towards the front of the property, where over top of the driveway, it's about 15 feet from the house to the westerly property line.
Excellent. And I think you talked about the landscaping, and I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add about stormwater management.
Yeah, I just want to indicate that there's 93 square feet of additional impervious coverage over what's there now. The threshold for stormwater management, being dry wells or some other form of stormwater management, is 300 square feet. So we're well under that threshold. And I think the fact that we're actually going to pipe the water towards the stream as it's there right now, it's not, we're going to change anything. We can leave the pipes that are discharging there right now, just tie into them with the new roof leaders, the gutters and leader system. So we're not going to affect any neighbors with that. And I think 93 square feet is pretty de minimis as far as stormwater.
Perfect. I don't have any other questions.
Any questions from our experts?
Well, you covered all the stormwater that I was looking at. Do you, you're aware that you will have to apply for a City of Summit floodplain development permit for the location of the stream in the back?
Yes, and I actually think that the environmental consultant was going to touch upon that.
Okay, good. Do you know if there's any existing stormwater management on the site? Are you aware of any?
I didn't see any, I walked it pretty well. I looked around for a while, and I did not see anything other than the fact that the roof leaders all go underground with the exception of that one. And then there's 5 pipes that come out on the stream bank.
And I'm sorry, I know you said this before. What was going to happen with that existing one that's going down to a splash block?
I don't see why it can't be tied into the existing
Okay.
system, because there's one, the front east corner, it goes underground, so it passes right by this splash block.
I think that's all I have.
With regard to your grade plane analysis, just wanted to clarify, I guess, in the 3 criteria approach, in the second one, looking at the perimeter of the building below 280.9, that equals 99 feet or 49%, correct? So you're at 49%,
Right.
whereas 50%, it would have then had to be considered a story
Correct.
above grade. Okay.
Yeah, that's the,
Thank you for that calculation and confirming that calculation for us. In addition to that, I noted in your exhibit where you proposed exhibit and you rendered the building in the proposed condition. Is the proposed addition off the back of the building going any further than the existing wood deck?
no, I don't, I think that's the limit of it,
Okay.
as I recall.
It's maintaining that line. Okay, thank you. And then it seems slightly different to me from the exhibit on the architect's drawing, but I believe I was mistaken by, I believe there's a chimney off the back or a bump out of some type.
It's a chimney off the back of the,
Okay, thank you. And then the air conditioning units will still be also in the back of the building?
correct.
Okay, so we need the screening. And then the width of the existing building envelope, because I think this is important to this property. You said the lot width is about 58 feet. If you take off the 2 15-foot side yard setbacks, or a total of 30 feet, you have about 28 feet left for the building envelope
Correct.
in that area? Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have one-
Sorry.
Okay, Jeff. I have a question. In the application, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this, it says that in 1995, there was an addition to the rear of the property, of the dwelling. Do you know where that was on your diagram?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay.
The architect can
Okay.
answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Following up on that just a little bit, the resolution that we received indicates that this is a 3-story building, not a 2-story building, and zoning follows. Is it now, how do we get to 2 from 3? And probably our legal counsel has to, and I wish we had the rest of the resolution to know exactly what they approved, but in this, it is telling us that as finding of fact is that this is a 3-story structure. Now, did they approve that? And if they approved that, doesn't that continue to today? because you're not changing the foundation. So that means that
And I can't-
everything else will stay the same.
I can't speak to whether the code and the calculations have changed on whether that story above grade analysis would have changed since 1995.
Yeah, but doesn't it stay with it?
So they would have been permitted under that code to have that 3 stories if it's, the
So
code
it's,
has now
so
become.
so whether it's 3 stories or 2 stories is insignificant, doesn't matter to
Right,
us because
whether-
it is.
Whether the code has become relaxed, and then that changes the impact of what they were granted through that
Well, why
variance,
would you
but-
want 2 instead of 3?
We were just, I think, responding to questions from administrative comments, and the planner had asked us to do the calculation. So based on calculations now, it's 2 stories
No,
in the.
it's- Sorry, you moved that measuring stick by a half an inch. You changed 49 to 51.
Well, they could have done something as far as grading when they put that addition on too, which may,
But it really doesn't, from what I can tell, it doesn't make a difference. If it's a 3-story, it doesn't change what we're facing.
Yeah, if the
No.
calculations haven't changed and they were granted a 3-story, but then of course it's the 3-story structure that was proposed before, and now they're changing the proposed structure, so I think the testimony is at that point has become moot. They're not proposing a 3-story structure under the current code.
Mr. Yuko?
Yeah, so I get back to your comment earlier about, if I understood it correctly, that none of this project is extending the back of any part of the
I
structure.
mean, the architect's gonna speak
Okay.
after me. My understanding is that it was going to that point.
Because, I mean, maybe just be something with the drawing. It looks like the proposed addition goes back approximately as far as the existing wood deck. Then it looks like there's a little bit of the wood deck that goes back a little bit farther, but I just may be misreading the drawing.
I think the architect can
Okay.
clarify.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Doug?
Yeah, so I would assume you're familiar with the problems going on with the stream behind your property, or behind the proposed property.
I've
The
done-
state's been out there, DEP's been out there, due to the erosion and the other issues going on. So though you say the water doesn't go to your neighbors, it actually does. It goes downstream to the neighbors. So maybe you're not the guy, maybe it's the scientist, I don't know. Has there been any thought about maybe taking the first step to help the downstream neighbors and not pour more water into that stream? Maybe put some sort of drainage pit in with an overflow to the stream or something like that?
No, really, we're following the ordinance the way it's written.
Well, if I could just add to that, my question is directly related to that because it's, I believe this stream ultimately discharges to the Passaic River, right? And there are no runoff is allowed to be discharged to the Passaic River, like new runoff is my understanding. So the 93 square feet, like even if you keep the house as it is, maybe those pipes are grandfathered in, but I don't know what happens when you add a story and you put new pipes, new runoff, but for sure that 93 square feet is new discharge, right, to the stream that probably needs permitting. Have you looked into that? That kind of
I
discharge?
think
permitting?
the environmentalist person will speak to that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I just have one more.
Yeah.
I know, we can, I'm going to sound very bad here, but we can adjust numbers to do whatever we want them to do. What's the headroom in that basement, the walkout basement? Is it 8 feet?
I'm not
Oh,
the
you don't know?
person.
Okay, I have to ask the architect. Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public for Mr. Hollows? Any questions? No? The stormwater question was answered. Someone had a stormwater question before? Oh, yeah, okay. So seeing none, we can move on to the next.
Mark
Witness.
Marion?
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Mark Marion, M-A-R-I-O-N.
Thank you. And can you briefly describe your background and experience for the board?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Architecture from Pratt Institute in 1982. I've been a registered architect since '89.
And can you please just make sure you're speaking into the microphone directly?
Thanks. Been self-employed as a principal architect at Architecture Plus since '91, and we've been operating at our current location in Raritan since '97. My license is in good standing and current, and I've given expert testimony in a couple dozen towns, mostly in Somerset County, around here, Union, Westfield, Berkeley Heights, New Providence.
And license in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
All right. Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials? Go
Thank
ahead.
Okay, and just tell the board how you prepared to give expert testimony.
We were hired by Denise to do existing conditions, so we measured the existing building, prepared a design with her, and then we also prepared the drawings for the variance,
And you reviewed the ordinance, administrative reviews.
best I could.
Excellent. And can you describe for the board what is existing on site and what is proposed?
Sure. There's an existing Cape Cod there. There is an addition in the back. It's a one-story addition. I couldn't tell you when it was put up, but it's certainly not original. The existing house is a 1.5-story Cape Cod. It's around 1,600 square feet. There's 4 bedrooms. There's 2 bedrooms up and a bathroom that's quite tight up in the attic area. There's some dormers that help get some headroom there. There's 2 bedrooms on the first floor and 1 bath. There's a single 1-car garage to the right. It's not accessible from the house at all, and it's undersized per the ordinance, and it's not very deep. It's like 18 feet deep also. It's kind of on the small side. The 1-story addition out the rear is a kitchen and like a family eating area, a family room. And it's has some vaulted ceilings, and there's a very large deck off the back also. So, and the basement's partially finished. I don't know the height of it, but I'm thinking it's under 8 feet. It's between 7 and 8 feet down there. It's pretty standard for a house built in the 40s or 50s. And that's pretty much it we're going straight up off the house, and she went down. Okay. Yeah, these are the same plans you were looking at. This plan right here is the main level plan, the one in the middle. The gray area in the front is we're putting an addition 3 feet out the front. We're not quite going to the front of the living room there, but we're adding 3 feet to the foyer where we're moving the stair. And we do have a small porch that we're adding to the front to put a cover over the front door. The rest of the addition is in the back, where we are extending out over the existing deck. We are cantilevering the fireplace past the deck, but it does not come down to the ground. It's a cantilevered fireplace. So that does exceed the line of the existing deck. And the new deck also sticks out about 2 feet past the existing deck. The deck's actually getting smaller than what is there by a few hundred square feet. I could double check that number. But basically, where the kitchen is shown on our plan, that is where it is right now. So we're adding like 2 feet to the kitchen, and we're pushing the back out and expanding that family room and adding that breakfast area there on the first floor. Interior-wise, to the existing house, we are providing a door from the garage to the basement, because the garage is quite a bit lower than the first floor of the house. You could drive down that hill. So it's easier to get in the house if we go down into the basement. It's a few steps down. And then they'll come up the main stair to get in. I'll talk about the basement just a little bit. Upstairs is where most of the addition, let me just follow my notes here. We're adding about 300 square feet to the first floor. In the addition, yeah. Also on the first floor, there's the living room, a dining room along the right side. There's a pretty small den in the back side, and we're relocating the powder room. So the internal guts of that existing house is getting reworked to accomplish this plan. Upstairs, you can see the addition is much larger by the grade area. Upstairs, we moved all the bedrooms upstairs. There's 4 bedrooms, there's 4 bathrooms, a nice master suite, double walk-in closet, and we also moved the laundry upstairs. We're going to end up around 3,200 square feet in total of living space on this first and second floor. And I'll slide this over. In the basement, we have new stairs coming down. There's a large mudroom coming off the garage. There's a bath down there now, but we're moving it. And then adding a guest room with a window, be an egress window out to the, which I believe that's an existing window. And then we're expanding that back rec room. Just like the big back rec room is looks like what was constructed for the previous addition, the previous one-story addition. That basically explains the plans.
Can you go through the exterior, and then explain
Yeah.
how that also ties into the neighborhood?
Neighborhood's pretty mixed. It's some ranches, some capes, a couple of 2 stories, some newer houses are sprinkled in here and there. Some of the older homes have had additions put on them. Some are 2-story. It looks like a 2nd story, and the lots in that area seem to be narrow. So most of them additions have been driven back. At least that's what my eye sees. So what we're proposing is a 2-story house in the front. We have a small gabled roof over that a portico over the front porch in front of the foyer. We basically took there's a low gable there now. We just extruded it up for the bedroom that's in the front. Tried to keep the roof fairly simple, and the addition just drives out the back. I forgot to mention that we did make the garage deeper and have a door out the back of the garage.
And will the garage comply with the fire ratings as required?
Absolutely. And in the rear, there's a small deck. There's an upper balcony off the master suite. And there's a gas fireplace in the breakfast area that's cantilevered out. And there is there's a door out from underneath, so my grade line as drawn is wrong. It's actually basically level across the back. That line should be lower. This is one of the questions.
So we will confirm and correct the
Yep.
the height under the deck.
Yeah, it's low there now, so.
And then I think there was also a request for a construction detail of the walkway, and that will be provided, right?
Yeah, there's pavers back there, so I'm sure they'll be tying into the existing pavers.
And then can you just go through the materials for the exterior of the home?
Sure. The front has like the front gable's panels, and then we're showing board and batten siding. I know the Historic Commission didn't like the board and batten, and we can switch that to horizontal siding or shakes in the front and along the garage side. I mean, we were going to more horizontal siding along the sides in the back.
I don't have any other questions.
Questions from our experts?
Okay. In the front of the house, where you're bumping out adjacent to the front staircase,
Mhm.
that bump out, what is that serving within the existing building? Why is it necessary?
It allows us to get, create a nice foyer and get a reasonable set of stairs up into the second story.
Is that where the stairs are now?
No, the stairs are they're dotted in the dining room.
Okay.
The entry door into the house is on the side of the living room, so when you see the house, the front door actually doesn't face front, it faces sideways. It's in that little return, right here is where the front door is, and it goes into the living room.
Okay.
And where the foyer is a bedroom.
You're also proposing the new breakfast area, I guess, and then on the upper floor, there's a new master bathroom.
Correct.
There. What is it about the architecture of where you place that? It's in the side yard setback. What was your rationale for doing so?
It is in the side yard setback, but I believe it's less than the worst case scenario. We have the corner in front of that is 9'4", so we just kind of like keeping that line and stepping the building back and not trying to increase the side yard setback.
So you do have a slight jog in that back portion of the building?
Yeah.
Okay, proposed addition.
Yeah, because the building doesn't sit, well, the property kind of skews off at an angle from the street, and the house is skewed on the property.
In relation to the side lot line?
Yeah, so we stepped the addition to try not to increase the side yard setback.
You had mentioned you're going to revise the schematic rear elevation.
Yes.
If you can also revise the line of the average grade plane in accordance to what had been provided tonight.
Okay.
And I wasn't clear on your testimony. You were going to change the board and batten?
That was one of the comments from the HPC, I think, was the siding. And,
Right.
and we can, if the board wants us to, we can address the siding.
Okay, so what were you proposing for that?
It would either be this horizontal siding or shakes.
Okay.
Yeah, horizontal shakes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Questions from the board?
I have one
Oh,
question.
oh, yeah.
As a follow-up to that, on the schematic for the left side elevation, any of those windows on the basement level, are they existing?
I believe all the windows we have drawn are existing there, except where their addition is, in the back.
In the
The
back,
back
right,
window, that's a
okay.
new window.
Okay, so there's no reason to anticipate that you'll be putting in window wells or anything, those windows
No.
are already there?
They're there, and the one window that has me of concern is the bedroom window, and that does comply with regress
Okay,
for alterations.
thank you.
Questions from the board?
I did, oh, do you want
Go
to?
ahead, no, ladies first.
You addressed the one issue, that there was two comments from the HBC, Historic Preservation. You addressed one of them. Can you address the other one regarding the,
The fact that it's not a Cape Cod?
yeah, that you didn't like, because a lot of houses around town,
Yeah.
you look, and it looks like it has the same look of the original house, and everything's in the back, so it doesn't
Right.
change the
No,
streetscape.
it's not really a Cape Cod anymore. We chose to do a two-story house, so, yeah, could we fake it in? Sort of, but it's not really a Cape Cod anymore in this proposal. So, If you want to introduce more roof, we did consider doing a wider porch and using the porch roof to kind of break it down, but we were trying to not make the porch too big.
I think it's more of the design element of keeping the look of the cape, although the interior of the house
Yeah,
would not be designed as a cape, but thank you for addressing that.
thanks.
And again, there's other two-story homes in this area.
There
It's
are.
very eclectic. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different
Yes, there's a
types of
mix.
architecture
There is a
in
mix
this-
of houses.
on the
I think
street.
they're just buying these houses and blowing them out. That's why there's a mix.
Well, some, we could tell they were originally that way, and some have been renovated.
So is it, my understanding is you're not going to change the height of the basement, the ceiling height of the basement? So
No,
the
we're going to
whole-
use the existing finished floor as it is.
So do you know what it is?
It's less than 8 feet. I don't, I have to go through my notes to tell you exactly what it is. It's between 7 and 8 feet.
I think it's 7.5 to be exact. I think
Yeah.
I measured it.
You're not going to dig down or anything?
No, the
like that?
plan was to keep the first floor deck as it is, and we were going to build on top of that. As not to raise the building.
Well, digging down doesn't raise the building.
Digging down is like, you're basically almost taking that thing down and putting a new house there. So we were utilizing the existing footprint.
So just so I understand, you're not going to remove the floor of the
The
basement?
first floor
No,
deck.
no, the basement.
The basement, no, we are not.
Yeah.
It would
So-
also have an impact on stories.
That's my whole question.
Yeah. So we are not planning on lowering the floor.
So you actually made a comment that you purposely jogged the addition where, what is now, I guess, the
Be the back
breakfast room?
left.
Were there any considerations to jog it more to reduce that restriction any further?
The breakfast area is 10 by 13.9. That seems like a reasonable size. And as if we slid it over, it was crowding the kitchen. So it seemed appropriate. And like I said before, we are not making the side yard setback any worse than it currently is.
And then the deck would also get smaller, and we've
Mhm.
already reduced the deck.
Yeah, yes.
Can you confirm the window in what is the guest room, that it's, you're saying that you're not,
This window right here.
yeah, is that an egress window?
Yes.
So there's an existing egress, because it says, you said that you're not really changing a lot here, but it says new guest room, so.
It is a new guest room.
So
There is
that-
no
that
bedroom
has to-
there. There's no bedroom there now, so
Okay.
we are creating a new bedroom.
So you are replacing a window there then, because you're going to put an egress window.
An egress window is not really any specific window, it's just a window that complies with a certain size.
I understand, but that's a
So,
different window.
so
than
that
what
window
you're
that's there does comply with the size required for creating
It's like 4 feet,
a new window. It's
You have to be able to-
5.7 square
but
feet.
you have to be able to climb out of it. I think that's the.
Yeah,
right, so.
yeah, it has to be a certain distance off the floor, it has a minimum width and a minimum height. In alterations, though, they make it easier because they pretend that the sashes aren't in, so it's really like the completely whole window, so.
I have a question on, you mentioned about extending the garage.
Yes.
How will that be extended? Are you going to dig to make it bigger, or you're going to back it into the, how is it going to be extended?
We're going to construct a foundation, goes back, we're making it like almost 5.5 feet deeper.
So you're
not wide.
digging to
Yeah,
make?
well, they'll be digging to build the foundation in the back, for sure. Yes,
The only
that's
reason I'm
part-
asking is because I'm pretty familiar with that area. My family owned 107 from 1906 to 2005. And most of these properties that are in front of here it's listed as a stream, but back in around 2004, 2005, when I had many conversations and inspections from the state, they told me it was actually called a drainage ditch. It wasn't even a named stream. but it still required, and back at that time, it was a 50-foot buffer. And I believe shortly after I sold the place, it went to, the state changed it to 150.
So I
if you're
think
digging,
the environmental engineer will answer that question
Okay.
for you.
Any other questions from the board?
What's the overall height? I don't have the plans in front of me.
$34.9 and a half.
And the house on each side of those are how high, do you know?
I do not know the specific.
So they're
height.
1.5 story on each side?
It's 1.5 to the left, or excuse me, right, and to the left, it's a mix. I can't tell. It's like 2 stories on the side that's facing this, but it does step down on the.
So how much higher would you say, guess, is this house compared to the other neighbors? Somebody's
5.
raising their hand behind you.
I actually don't know. I don't want to guess.
But the proposed height is permitted,
Within the
it's
zone,
not.
yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is permitted
Mhm.
under your ordinance.
And what's the width of the lot again?
It was 59?
58.
58?
58 feet, and 90 feet is required.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
quite
it's
a
4 zone.
deep lot, and the coverages are well within FAR.
Okay, yeah, everything's good, yeah.
FAR, you could build a 5,000 square foot house on a lot that big.
A long one.
Long,
Yeah,
narrow one, yeah.
but
That goes over.
you
the
can't get
street.
there
Right.
because of the
Near
stream.
the little bridge.
Yeah.
over-
Right.
Cantilever.
Right. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public for the architect? Yes.
Hi, my name's Maureen Alvidrez, 90 West End Avenue. I just would like to understand, this is a tear down to the foundation, and the testimony is speaking as if there's a lot of reference to
This is
existing.
just for questions only of this witness.
But I want to understand, is it a tear down?
Technically, we're reusing the foundation and the first floor.
And the first floor?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions from the public? No? Okay. Would you like to move on to the next witness?
Okay, John Peel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is John Peel, P-E-E-L. I'm with PK Environmental, Chatham, New Jersey. We do planning and engineering and environmental consulting.
And can you just provide the board with your background and experience, please?
I have a undergraduate degree in environmental sciences. I have a master's degree in city, regional, and planning from Rutgers. I've been practicing as an environmental consultant and planner for 40 years this year. Probably looked at over 1,000 wetlands analyses and assessments, numerous flood hazard area permitting issues, and we specialize basically in NJDEP permitting and actions like that.
And do you have a particular state license or?
Yes, I'm a licensed professional planner since 1991,
All right.
and my license is in good standing.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
Accept.
Thank you.
Okay, what steps did you take to prepare yourself to give testimony in this matter?
Well, we were originally retained or contacted by Denise Bonfilio, who retained us to look at the basic environmental issues, such as primarily the stream corridor that's in the back of the property. And we were retained to basically address the presence or absence of wetlands and/or flood hazard area as regulated by the NJDEP.
And you've reviewed all applicable regulations, maps, requirements, ordinances?
Yes, we did.
And did you prepare a report in connection with the application?
Yeah, excuse me. We summarized our findings in a March 28th letter report, basically which concluded, in fact, that the stream in the backyard is very well defined. There's no wetlands on either side of the creek, no regulated wetlands. The creek itself is a tributary to the Passaic River, but the contributing drainage area at Denise's property is less than 50 acres. And as such, the NJDEP does not regulate or possess a regulatory flood hazard area. Whenever there's a drainage area less than 50 acres, a property can generally proceed with a permit by rule. So in this case, that's what Denise's plans depict. There's no NJDEP flood hazard area, and all the there is a 50-foot riparian zone associated with the creek. There was a question about that, I think.
But this property is in a special flood hazard area.
Not from the state.
It's not?
No, it's not. The drainage area at this property of the area to that creek is 32 acres. The NJDEP regulates floodplain or flood hazard areas when there's a drainage area greater than 50 acres. It is a regulated water course. It's called a state open water. And all state open waters have riparian zone buffers, either 50 feet, 150 feet, or 300 feet. In this case, it would be 50 feet. And that said, the existing house is within that riparian zone, and the proposed house will be in that riparian zone. As long as there's no activities, additions and so on, within 25 feet, then this project can proceed under what they call a permit by rule.
Well, I mean, from what I was told back then, and I know the requirements got a lot more stringent.
True.
And back then, it was 50, and I know it was changed to 150.
What was?
So is it your testimony that you don't need any permits from the state to dig in this area?
That's correct.
It is, okay.
It's a permit by rule activity.
Maybe you can
Mr.
just
yeah.
explain what that means.
Yes, as I said before, the DEP regulates all water courses, natural water courses, which this is. And they will put a 50-foot riparian zone, a 150-foot riparian zone, or a 300-foot riparian zone if you're in the watershed of a Category 1 stream. This is not. So the 300-foot is out. If there's a 50 or 150-foot riparian zone and the area is disturbed, such as this, such as every house along that waterway that's within the 50-foot zone, if the area is disturbed, technically, the DEP will allow you to proceed under a permit by rule, and that's what they're doing here.
And that, just to be clear, if you have his report, it outlines that permit by rule number 10 and explains what can be done in that area, which might be more clear.
That's really about it.
Do you have anything
Oh,
from the
Mr.
state
Chinchulli.
saying that what
Mr.
you're
Chinchulli.
doing is acceptable?
I was just thinking if we could hear from the experts first, and then we'll get to, because I think there are other questions that will go along with that. We just may miss.
Yeah, but that would be for the,
I know. Let's,
for the digging and stuff.
yeah. Can we do the experts first? Thank you. Marie, do you have any questions?
Well, I don't know how else to clarify what he said unless anybody has any questions on that, but, it seemed pretty clear that, that he can act under a permit by rule to do the work that's on there because the area has already been disturbed and they're not going to be within 25 feet of the stream bank. I think you're still going to have to get a floodplain development permit from the city of Summit.
Yes.
Okay. So you know, there's still other steps to take. But I think, you know, and I can't speak to what the situation was of the property that you were on, or any others, but, you know, each property, can stand on its own and has its own unique places and stuff. So, you know, I can't say why in one case it was something and in this case it's different, but, I hope that helps.
But just to be clear, you don't take any issue with anything?
I do not take any issue with any of the testimony that's been provided.
Thank you.
Question regarding the 25-foot setback or limit. Have you measured actually on the plans from the top of bank to where some of the pavers are being shown? I would ask that be checked because it looks like you might be in 20 feet to the edge of the stream.
Are those the proposed pavers?
Yeah, it seems like proposed pavers and possibly the deck. I didn't have the actual dimension available on the 20 scale. Maybe I do. It looks like a portion of the deck might be 25 feet from the edge of bank, at least what I'm seeing from Mr. Hollow's plan.
I didn't measure it myself, so.
Okay.
Mr.
But
Vice
that's
Chair,
the case.
while they check that, can we just verify that we got his report? I didn't get that in my package, I didn't see it online. The report from the engineer.
Yeah, I also did not see
I just
that.
want to make sure we get a copy of that
Yes.
for public
I
record.
did not
Would-
see that either, just so you know.
Yeah, I don't know, was it supposed to be submitted,
Okay, so-
Hillary? Was that report intended to be submitted to the board, or is that just for your own internal purposes?
I submitted it with the
Uh,
application.
It's a
Microphone.
It's a two-page report.
I did submit that with the application, which is why it was a question that was raised. So it was one of the requirements that I fulfilled, so I could fulfill it to get to the hearing tonight. So I did submit his report with all of the paperwork.
I'm sorry, you're saying that you submitted it after all of the planner's report and the engineer's report went out?
No, prior to all of that, before the review, I submitted it to Tom, I think is his name.
Tom
Uh,
Barrett.
I submitted it with my initial application so we could get to the next, so it could get reviewed and we could, you know, see if we checked all the boxes to get to the variance, to the hearing tonight. So it was submitted. And I think John sent one directly to Collier's as well, I thought I saw, ahead of time, no? I thought so.
Since none of us seem to have it, is there any objection to submitting it as an exhibit tonight?
Sure.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
So that'll be exhibit A4. Just want to pass it down.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to confirm whether or not a portion of the deck falls within that 25-foot distance.
It shouldn't be.
I scaled it, it's very, very, very close.
Yeah.
But this is something that can be cleared up if the board would approve it and at the time of building permit application with actually dimensions in that.
And we'll make sure that it's more than 25 feet.
Well, can we put that as a condition?
Yeah, I think we would ask for that as a
Sure.
condition, but.
Yep.
so-
So that condition was it absolutely won't be more than 25 feet? Okay.
It will be more than
Will-
25 feet from the stream.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I think we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Just make sure it was clear.
Yeah, I'm just,
25 feet.
shouldn't have all that been thought about before getting here tonight, though?
We advised the client about that from day one, so they were aware of it.
So somebody didn't listen?
Maybe 25 feet, I'm not
Well,
sure.
maybe it's not, maybe it's 8 feet, maybe
It
it's
has
7
to
feet.
be.
So
It
now
de-
it's
it definitely-
stipulating-
It definitely will be.
They're stipulating definitely will be.
Yeah. Well, no, I get it, but you have the plans, and then it's like, oh, we catch it here.
Do you have any other
That's it.
questions? Okay. Questions from the board?
Just a simple one. Do any of the properties that butt up to this property, are they required to have flood insurance? Do you know? Is your property, is
As
this
of right-
property
As of right
required?
now, this is in a Zone A. I do not think that they're required to have flood insurance.
I can testify we were not required to obtain flood insurance.
That would only
Not
matter,
carried on the property.
that would only matter if there was a mortgage on the
That's,
house.
yeah, correct. If there's a, if, that would only matter if there's a loan on the property.
And if there's a floodplain.
Yeah.
So-
Well, okay, yep.
I just wanted to go back to the runoff, the discharge from the roof leaders, and as to whether that is actually allowed, the additional discharge, because I think the permit by rule, I understand I don't know if you know the answer to this, Marie, but it seems, from things that I've read about the issues with the Passaic River and the flooding of the Passaic River, that is being highly regulated, all discharges. So that 93 square feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a new discharge. And is that allowed to be sent through the pipe? I don't know if you know the answer to that, if they're allowed to discharge that to the stream.
I can't say for 100%.
I just feel like that's not something that we can just allow, to just say that that's okay without saying you need to show the board or the city that no permit is required for that, and if it is required, then you have to manage that stormwater on site and not discharge it to the stream.
We can make that a condition of approval.
It's a good point. That's supposed to be applicable to everybody on the stream. What we see a lot of, and it's regional runoff problems. It's everywhere.
Right.
In New Jersey right now. So DEP is very serious about that. That said, people do their own normal property maintenance. I'm not saying that's going on here, but I see it all over the place. And the DEP will tell you, you can't increase runoff.
Right.
If these existing pipe volumes can accept this, there's a fine line whether it's something that's required or not. But we're going to look into that.
Yeah, I
How
think-
can we control that?
I mean, I don't know if you're required to get a letter from the DEP saying you're allowed to discharge, if that might be or is there another regulatory agency? Because
There's already a discharge.
right, I understand, additional discharge.
Right.
And the question is, would the existing discharge be grandfathered in now that you're raising the building, adding a story, like now it's new downspouts? I don't know how they look at it, but I feel like that requires a letter from New Jersey DEP that you're allowed to discharge that.
That, or we would provide the stormwater management for that additional
Yes.
runoff. Yep.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of rain barrels might work.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Yes. Yes, please.
Elizabeth Wynn, W-Y-N-N, 85 West End Avenue. So I'm the house on the left, and I've lived in the property for 27 years. I can tell you that in 2006, FEMA did reassess, and
Questions
all the...
only?
Question.
Questions
to
only
this-
now.
To this expert.
To what?
Questions to this.
Do you have a
expert.
question for this
Oh,
witness?
so you had said that you didn't think it was in a floodplain, but in 2006, FEMA reassessed, and all houses on West End Avenue along the creek are in a flood zone.
Yeah, that's right.
I can see the FEMA map.
Yep, the FEMA map is available at FEMA.com.
Was there a flood hazard area identified, or is it just Zone A?
Here, I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that.
This is from this one.
Yeah.
So this is a Loma letter of map amendment.
Speak up, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
There's a letter of map amendment for this property. It's a standard flood hazard determination form.
What's the date on that letter?
February 2015. 2015. Yeah, 2015.
And it says that the property is not in a flood.
Is it for the property or the structure?
Structure.
Structure.
Can I make a comment? We had a witness here not too long ago on a property there.
Yeah.
And his testimony was that, not sure when, but that all those properties that were not in a flood zone were put in the flood zone because they had changed the whole floodplain area. And that one person that was here with that Loma letter, there was testimony from an expert saying that those standards were increased.
Right, they were.
So I mean, it's just, from what I've experienced there, that anytime you dig or disturb in any flood hazard area, you need DEP approval to do it.
So
That's what I was told. by
does
the
that
state.
letter change any of your testimony? Does it change
No.
the analysis here?
No, it does not.
Okay.
And they're not digging in a flood hazard area here.
Yeah, but,
It's a disturbed area. They're in the riparian zone, but according to NJDEP flood hazard area regulations, they don't regulate this water course where it's less than a 50-acre drainage area for flood hazard flooding issues. It's too small. You may be right. There may be a lot of erosion and runoff and excessive stuff like that. But the drainage area at this property is still less than 50 acres, and it does not require a flood hazard area permit from the NJDEP. They're talking FEMA here. This is federal stuff. So,
Okay, any other questions from the public? All right, any other last questions from the board for this witness? No? Okay.
I don't have any other witnesses.
Okay, so at this time, we'll open it up to public comment. This is the time where the public can tell us what they think. You don't only have to ask questions. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? No? Okay, so no, oh, yes, okay, thank you.
Steve Woodall, 92 West
If you
Ave.
could please
Known
raise
for
your
a
right
while.
hand, I'm going to have to swear
Go
you in.
for it.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
And can you just spell your last name for the record?
Last name is Woodall, Woodall.
Thank you. And
92
address?
West End.
92. Thank you.
Right. Just a quick question. That better? Good. The tree that's out in front, is it proposed to be taken down during this construction or not? Right. So if you just want to, just saying, if you want to see a good example of city money well spent, that tree was planted by John Linson and his group many, many years ago. Watched it since its infancy. It's in full bloom right now. So just when you go to build it, protect it around the base. John would support that. I know John pretty well. I've worked with him for a while. I work over at Kent Place and worked with him for a while. But if you want to drive down that road, it's in full bloom right now. Check it out. It's a good tree. It's one you guys want to save. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
So in 1995,
One
when
second.
the,
I just need to swear you in. If
Oh,
you could
sure.
raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matters the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you just state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Elizabeth Wynn, Wynn.
Thank you.
There was just a question, I think Allison, you had the question about what the addition was in 1995. And I think another gentleman brought up the question about why is it a 3-story versus 2-story? It was a 2-story addition that was done in 1995. Donald, your question about the lower level, it's probably very close to 8 feet. It's a completely finished basement. They added a full bath downstairs. So the structure, which I do support doing the addition, I'm fine with that. It's going to be a tremendous building in height and size on a very small piece of property. So I just wanted to clarify that it was a 2-story addition back in 1995.
Thank you. Any other comments? Right. Seeing none, I think we'll go into executive session now. So we'll go over the.
Did you?
I was just trying to
Yeah.
close it.
Yeah,
Oh, you
thank
did.
you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so just to reiterate, this house proposed is well under on all of the coverages. This is a classic C1 variance case. The lot is 32 feet more narrow than what is required. The stream running through the back of the property drives the location of the home closer to the front lot line, and the location of the existing lawful structure all create undue hardship and result in practical difficulty in developing the property as otherwise permitted. The proposal will provide an improved aesthetic and architecturally complementary home in an eclectic neighborhood to meet the needs of contemporary families looking to live in Summit. The proposal will not have a detrimental adverse impact on surrounding neighbors. Stormwater management will be looked into, and as of right now, will be managed. There's no environmentally constrained area of the property that will be negatively affected, and we would ask that the board grant the variances.
Okay.
All right, so I'll note our conditions. I have 5 of them. The
Okay.
first is our usual compliance with the conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second is that the applicants will replace the fence located between it and the neighboring property owner on the left side, or 85 West End. Third, the applicants will add additional arborvitae screening between the property and the neighbor, 85 West End, if possible. Fourth, the applicant shall ensure that all plans reflect no disturbance within 25 feet of the stream and shall revise the plans as necessary to ensure that requirement is met. And the fifth and final condition I had noted is the applicant shall ensure that no additional DEP approval is required for the 93 square feet of new proposed coverage. If it is not permitted by the DEP, the applicant shall revise the plans to either add stormwater management to accommodate any new impervious coverage. So we have just C variances in this application, so a majority or 4 votes is required to approve.
Was there one about the
The siding.
the siding?
I didn't
think
note
we'll
that as a
talk about
condition,
it.
but we
Yeah.
They agreed
requested.
that it might change, but we didn't say to what.
Right, the applicants did agree to change it as the board sees fit.
So this is the time for us to see fit.
I suppose it is.
Correct. Okay. So.
So I think what we're saying is we're not particularly happy with what's there, but we're looking for what else you might propose.
I mean, if HPC says we should be looking at just horizontal, I would defer to the architect to design something aesthetic in accordance with the code. I mean, the design ordinance kind of gives what that style is, and it just needs to be horizontal versus a vertical.
Yeah, or a shingle, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Does the board have a preference?
So do we make that into
I
a
don't know the
condition?
neighborhood well enough to make that determination.
So it sounds like we're okay with either of the HPC's recommendations?
Okay.
A
Is
mix of
that-
shingles and horizontal is nice on the front of the house. How's that? Yeah. Give it a little interest.
They may
So-
think what they proposed
Yeah.
I
looks
would,
nice.
Mr. Ball, I would suggest that, subject to the design ordinance, objectives that is in a horizontal fashion, and just leave it at that. I don't think we need to be designing a form.
Okay. So we'll note that as a condition as well to
Okay.
revise the materials accordingly.
And just one question about the second to, well, not what is now second to last condition, the possible letter from DEP. When does that have to happen? Prior
So-
to issuing a building permit, or?
I didn't necessarily impose a time requirement on getting a letter from DEP. They need to ensure that no DEP approval is required for that. If it is required, then they need to update the plans to accommodate the new coverage, but Yeah, I guess it has to be done before a building permit is
Can we
issued.
specify that that's a letter, though? Because I think I don't know what showing that you don't need DEP approval is, I don't know. You know, there's probably other, you know, I think a letter from DEP would be pretty clear, but there are other ways, you know, interpretation by other experts who may have different opinions. I don't know. I don't think the expert that was here knew the answer, so I feel.
I'm sorry, are we in questions, or are we in executive?
Can-
Just from a technical point of view.
This is just about the conditions.
So we're still.
We're talking about the conditions.
Can we, can he, I mean, should we ask him how to clarify it? Is what I'm trying to get to.
Flood hazard area applicability determination.
I don't think it's flood hazard area that we're looking for. It's for the discharge from the additional runoff.
Okay.
So that's different than the flood hazard
So
area.
I think what we're going to ask for is written confirmation from DEP that that discharge is permitted.
Yeah, but can I go back to that case we heard with the port?
I don't want
No,
to get back.
but I'm confused. I'm having a hard time understanding because.
So
we-
they talked about the standards of, you know, being within 25 feet of the stream. I don't recall what the distance from the stream in that case was. I don't recall what the area was. We have the expert
The
testimony.
house is only a few houses up the street. and
But
there-
looking at the map, the stream does curve up towards that house, and we don't have the facts here tonight to say it was
Because,
required in that case for any particular reason.
yeah, but I specifically asked them at that time, they had the same Loma letter that it was taken out of the flood zone, and I asked them, why wouldn't they build the garage instead of the portico? And their witness testimony was, they couldn't do it because they needed all kind of state approvals, even though they weren't in the flood zone. And we approved them to build that portico. So I'm having trouble understanding why we.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is
I
we're
thought that
doing
that
this
was
at
a
one thing.
permit by rule as
I know
well.
each case stands independently, get that.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
can't point to the particular regulations. We have the expert testimony here tonight supporting their position that they are permitted to do what they are proposing here. And we don't have any of our experts who are able to point to something different that says they need to do X, Y, and Z differently. So unless you have a code that you want to point us to, we have to consider that testimony.
I also think if we are asking for a letter about that the discharge is approved, that's already getting eyes on it. So,
Yeah, if DEP looks at it and says, no, you can't do it, then they can't do something that DEP does not permit.
right.
And just to confirm that condition, it's the letter or stormwater management for the additional runoff, right? Is that,
Yes, if DEP says you cannot discharge that additional impervious coverage, then the applicant will revise plans to add stormwater management to accommodate any new impervious coverage.
fine.
And when do they have to have the certification in?
I think we asked before building permits are issued.
Because DEP takes forever. We know that. Okay,
All right.
as long as our resolution doesn't get held up and we wind up running out of time.
Right.
So we have the conditions squared away. Someone want to kick off comments or discussion?
At the beginning, I wasn't comfortable with the DEP issues, but I guess with these conditions,
Excuse me,
it is,
we're in executive session, sorry. Yes.
it's possible that we can support this application. Most of the variances are existing, so I can see the hardship here. The size, it's undersized, the width. So I think we can support this, I can support this application as with all these conditions.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I can support this application too. It's a very attractive change for the house, with very attractive plans. There are no variance needed for anything related to the size of the house. There's no variances for height, for number of stories, for lot coverage, building coverage, FAR, as has been mentioned, all within limits. The side yard setbacks, as Mr. O'Malley said, are existing non-conforming. Front yard setback is in line with the neighborhood properties. You know, I happy we have those conditions that'll cover any issues with the DEP. Hopefully that'll, I know it gets confusing, but as was noted, the stream worms around, so it could be different distances from different houses. I can support this application.
I'm not sure, I don't see any negatives to this. I see some positives to it. Again, we have improved the application that we got. We've improved its appearance with what we're doing in the front. We are making sure that there are no adverse effects to the neighbors with drainage. And we look like we're doing the right thing here, so I can support this application.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Thank you.
We go back.
Leave it up.
I mean, the other one, hold on. It's such a quick one. I think we should, can we do 78 Essex? Because I think it's, and we take a break after that one. All right. I think we're going to re-pivot to our original agenda and move to 78 Essex. Yeah.
Who has the signed plan? A4, the exhibit?
Oh, the,
I have that.
These,
Well, no,
Was
the
that
two sheets.
that letter? That a letter that was passed around?
the letter,
Did I?
Kind of orange, you're supposed to know.
Did it go anywhere after you?
I didn't get any letters.
There's no one next to him.
These,
It's over here, gentlemen.
No, it was,
I passed it along.
this one.
that's it, yeah. I think it was actually,
Oh, we have to sign this?
no, we
No,
have,
it's an exhibit. I need it. Thank you.
there was a third one. It's the president now.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to keep my eye on you guys.
Not you guys, just that guy on the end.
Yes.
Just that guy on the
All
end.
right, if we could just take any conversations outside, please. Thanks. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Wolf, and I represent Everett and Ashley Christensen. And I think we're here for a very straightforward application. It should be very quick for you. I just want to confirm that our notice was sufficient.
Yes, it was.
Perfect. And the property is 78 Essex Road, which is Block 2305, Lot 15. It's located in the R25 zone. And we're seeking bulk variance for the replacement of 2 air conditioning condensers and a new generator. There's no other changes to the property or the dwelling, and we did receive the reviews from your board professionals, and we have no objection to the comments. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Christensen, and I'm just going to ask you a little bit about your property. How long have you lived there?
And let me just swear you in,
I'm
please,
sorry.
if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you are Everett Christensen?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
And if you could just tell us how long you've lived at the property.
Sure. My wife Ashley and I have lived at the property since late 2019 with our 2 kids, Caroline and Jack Christensen.
And why are you seeking to replace your air conditioning units?
Well, we discovered this issue when one of our air conditioning units failed and the unit was replaced. The contractor went to the city to get a permit for that, and we learned that the condenser units were not within the property setback, and so we've been pursuing this variance since then. We anticipate that our second system at some point, because it is aging, will likely also need to be replaced. And while we're at it, we have wanted to add a generator to the house, for health and safety with 2 young kids at home, and power going out. It's something that we would like to have added to the property as
as well, and so we thought we would take care of that in this application.
Thank you. And there's no other changes to the property that you're making, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Christensen.
Any questions from our experts?
Do you have an engineer that's speaking later on?
We have Mr. Clark, yes.
Okay.
Just real quick, with regard to the AC unit location, that's where the existing AC unit is now, right?
Correct. And that was where they were located when we purchased the property.
Okay. And the house is favoring closer to that side. I know the engineers can speak to that.
Yes, correct.
Would you be willing to test the generator during daylight hours?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that is required under our code so that the permitted hours are in there.
Of course.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have one question. Regarding the AC, I can understand staying with the same location. How about the generator? Is there any way that it could be placed on the other side because you have more room at that area?
So in my opinion, aesthetically, I don't think so. I think it fits better on the side of the house where the AC condensers are. That is screened from the neighbor's property
Right.
With a stockade fence as well as a fair amount of vegetation. Their driveway then abuts to that. On the other side of the house, we actually have a garden and a path going into the backyard. And so the side of the house where the AC condensers are already placed is, in our view, the best location for it because it is most screened, I think, from everybody for all purposes. It's also where the gas line is running into the property on that side of the house. And so it would be, I'm not a professional, but I think it would be fairly difficult to try to move the gas line to the other side of the property.
Thank you.
Where does your power line come into that? Does that come
On that side.
Is your basement finished?
It is partially finished and partially a crawl space area.
So in terms of like, if you had to run the gas line through your basement to get to the other side, to get out, that is a possibility? Or would it go through the
It would
finished
go
part?
through the finished part.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
Okay, my next witness would be Mr. Andrew Clark. So you just switch seats with him.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you have appeared before us a number of times, including recently. Your credentials were accepted at that time. I imagine no changes to your credentials since your last appearance?
No, sir.
I imagine we'll accept you back once again.
Thank you. And Mr. Clark, how did you become familiar with this proposal?
I became familiar with the proposal when I was contacted by the owners to conduct the survey work. So I did the survey. I think initially I wasn't clear what it was for, but then we discussed further after the survey was completed that there was a variance application, and then I amended with an additional plan to clarify the variance condition.
Thank you. And if you could describe the existing and proposed conditions.
Certainly. The existing conditions, it's in the R25 zone on Essex Road, number 78, and it's about 100 feet wide, slightly less than that at the setback, and a little more than 300 feet deep, 30,000 square foot lot. The property is fairly large. It's a little bit oversized for the R25 zone, which has the 25,000 square foot requirement, and conforming by and large to all the bulk standards except for the right yard setback. So the right yard, the dwelling itself is at between 12.6 and 12.8 feet off of that right line, and that's the side of the dwelling where the equipment is located. The rest of the setbacks, building coverage, lot coverage, are all conforming. The front yard setback is about 4 times what the zone minimum is, so it's set back a considerable distance from the street compared to many properties in Summit and even in the R25 zone. The existing air conditioning units, as indicated on the plans that were submitted, are 8.9 and 9 feet off of the boundary. We're required to be 15. And the proposed generator is other than replacement of the AC units, is the only proposed work and new work that's involved in this application, and that's going to be placed behind the air conditioner units at about 8 feet off the line. As was indicated, there is a stockade fence along the boundary. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's labeled there on the right side. I think it's a 6-foot fence. It's a pretty tall fence. I couldn't see over it when doing the survey work. And on the other side of the fence, part of the reason it's not shown is because it's pretty thick in there. There's quite a bit of vegetation, a lot of rhododendrons. There's several mature trees, and the driveway is past that vegetation. So you have the fence, probably like a 10-foot strip of vegetation, and then the driveway, and then in the back, that driveway leads to a detached garage that's back there, and then the house is on the other side of the driveway, so it's considerable setback from the boundary. So there's a good natural existing mature screening environment that's there for this equipment that's there now. And I think that's reflected in Mr. Linson's review, who indicated that there was adequate screening on the property and for the project, and had no objections. I would agree with that. I don't think, even if you attempted to add screening, as the ordinance typically does require for mechanical equipment, I'm not sure how well it would grow given the shade conditions that are in there. And given the condition of screening that exists now, I don't really think it's necessary. I think the positioning of this, of the air conditioner units and the generator, was also spoken to about where the utilities come in, and typically the electrical equipment. I'm not an expert on generators, but I believe they have to be in reasonable proximity, not only to the gas line, which fuels the generator when the power's out, but to the electrical distribution system within the house, which is usually near the panel box. Typically, or often, that's in the garage or near the garage in a utility room. So same thing with the air conditioner units. They usually like to position them proximate to the utility rooms. So I think that those are legitimate and good reasons why this would be the right side of the house to have this equipment on. And I don't really see any detriment in this case in terms of any effects on the neighbors. You can't even see any of this equipment from the street. So it's really only that neighbor to the right on lot 14 that could be affected. And it's my understanding there's no issues that have been raised with the neighbor about the existing equipment. So I don't see the addition of, first of all, the new AC units will be probably quieter than the older ones we've found. And the generator, of course, will come on when conditions warrant. Otherwise, the exercising would take place as indicated in the planner's review and Mr. Ball's indication per the ordinance during afternoon hours.
I don't really have any other further questions for Mr. Clark. I'm not sure if any member of the board or the professionals do.
My understanding, can you confirm what the increase in impervious coverage is because of these improvements?
Yeah, so the only increase, such as it is, would be the generator itself, which usually those are about 2 or 2.5 feet wide by about 4 feet. So 8 to 10 feet additional coverage, and we're far below what's permitted, and that's also an increase that's far below what any sort of stormwater thresholds would be for Summit.
So I agree with that. There's no additional impervious coverage that would trigger any stormwater, so I don't have anything further to offer on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Really no questions, just to say that you have the stockade fence there now, and plus the adjacent landscaping, so I think that addresses the bottom line.
Questions from the board? Is there any public here for this? No? Okay. Seeing none.
I have no further witnesses.
Okay.
So with that, in closing, I will say that I think that we can make this application under the C1 standard, given the location of the existing dwelling and the location of the side yard setback and where the existing air conditioning units are. I think that that's an appropriate location. And I think we can also make it under the C2 standard because it will be modern equipment that will be less noisy, more efficient, that promotes the purposes of the MLUL, which include the general welfare, secure safety from fire, flood, disaster, There's adequate light, air, and open space, we're not adding any coverage. It'll promote a desirable visual environment, as we discussed, there's a fence there, there's landscaping there, so no one's going to see this. And it promotes the utilization of renewable energy resources by having modern and efficient technology. On balance, I think it will have a limited impact on the neighborhood. It's buffered by the fence. It's currently in the same location, so I think the neighbors will be used to seeing it. It's nothing new. And as we discussed, we can stipulate to only testing the generator at an appropriate time. And we have no problems with adding additional landscaping if necessary, but we don't think that is necessary. So with that, I would turn it over to the board for its consideration.
I have one question.
Sure.
I don't remember if you covered this. The size of the air conditioning units, are they going to be the same as are you replacing for equal size?
Yes, my understanding would be replacements identical or similar in size and capacity.
You're not bigger capacity, okay.
No.
Thank you.
Do we have any conditions? No,
I
right?
have none.
Well, the generator.
Just the
testing, that's
usual,
by
right?
ordinance.
Just the,
But that's already in our code,
Okay.
so we don't need to.
Right.
Can we
impose
just,
additional-
I mean, if they're adding a generator, just make sure none of the screening's disturbed when they're getting the generator into the spot, that make sure proper screening's in place? Or that's just all part of the same?
I think the screening is mostly the fence.
We can certainly maintain the existing screening. We don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, just for clarity, where the equipment is located is next to a path, stone path that's running between our house, the screening, the fence, and the neighboring property. And so there would not be anything disturbed, but of course we will replace anything that gets damaged.
So I don't necessarily see any indication that there is going to be a
Okay.
disturbance. We wouldn't normally add a condition if there's no such indication, so. So unless there's any other thoughts on conditions, I'll just note that, again, we're only dealing with C variances here. Only a majority vote or 4 votes is required to approve.
Well, I keep saying we try to improve every one of the applications, and I can't do it on this one because it's perfect. So we'll leave it the way it is. We are doing everything, they are doing everything that's appropriate. The narrative in here spells it all out, and I think we should approve it.
I would love a night of just applications like this. Because it is so easy to understand the hardship of the existing building in its location. You're not moving the house, you're not moving your supply lines coming in from the street, the gas line. This is an existing location with the existing units, very well screened. This is a no-brainer to me. I support it.
Anyone else, or a move to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And why don't we take a 5-minute break
I
now
was just
before
gonna
we
propose
start
that
31 Hobart? Do we have to do this? We're taking a break.
Tom
That
has
work.
rejoined us.
Yes, and we're moving on to 31 Hobart Avenue.
Okay, so good evening again, long time no see. Hillary Ulls from Dempsey and Sheehan, representing the applicants Matthew and Catherine Medvine, owners of 31 Hobart Avenue, Block 3401, Lot 26 in the R10 zone. The applicants seek to construct a detached two-car garage to match the architectural style of the home and to modify certain aspects of the home that is currently under construction by adding a roof over the patio in the rear of the home and adding a covered porch on the side of the home to further enhance the architectural and historic elements of the home. The applicant requests variances for building coverage of 22.13%, where 18% is permitted. That is an overage of 785 square feet. The proposed required two-car garage counts towards 576 square feet of that coverage. And the roof over the patio counts towards another 560 square feet. Although the patio is not fully enclosed under the ordinance, it is included in building coverage. The required two-car garage is proposed to be located 4.33 feet from the side property line, which is a result of the steep slopes on the property. The slopes also contribute to the height of the garage of 22.56 feet from the average grade. However, from the street, the front elevation, the garage will be 18 feet, which complies with the ordinance. The applicant, Matthew Medvine, is here tonight, along with Ryan Petchak, applicant's architect, and Rich Keller, the civil engineer and professional planner. I'm happy to answer any questions or can call the first witness.
Any questions from the experts?
This house is already under construction, correct?
I just have one. The 576 square feet for the garage, only a portion of that is contributing to the building, the overage relative to the old house, because there was already a
It's
garage.
small.
Right, but it's probably 300 square feet, not 576 square feet. I did the math somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
It-
but
it
I
was-
mean,
it's- yeah, it was
it's not
demolished, yeah.
576 square feet of overage from the garage. It's about 300 square feet if you can only do the new part, right? So, yeah. Okay. That's it. Yes.
Okay, so Matthew Medvine,
Good evening.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you please state your name, spell your last name?
It is Matthew Medvine, Medvene.
Thank you.
okay, are you the owner with your wife of 31 Hobart Avenue, the property that is the subject of this application?
I am.
And how long have you owned this residence?
We purchased it last March, I believe.
And you currently live in,
Washington DC.
and so you're moving to Summit.
We are moving to Summit. My wife grew up in Westfield, so I lost the long battle to try and keep her south, so we are moving up north.
Okay, and can you tell the board what drew you to this home and what your objectives were for the improvements?
I grew up in Northern Virginia, within walking distance to downtown in a small town. So once I caved and agreed to move north, we had pretty specific parameters that we were looking for. The location of this house is within walking distance of downtown, which was my biggest thing. The historic element, I'm a builder by trade, and I love history and just old homes is very fascinating. And the charm and just history behind the home is something that really drew it to us. And then the proximity was what sold it and caught our attention from the get-go.
And can you tell the board a little background of how you ended up in front of this board tonight?
So we bought the home last March. We were hoping to have plans expedited as we found out unexpectedly that we were expecting. And we were trying to get plans submitted by last summer. They didn't end up getting submitted until, or last spring, excuse me. We didn't get submitted until last summer, and we didn't end up getting a building permit until October. We got stuck and hung up primarily through the garage with the placement. The old existing garage that was torn down, from what my understanding was, it was no longer compliant, and given that we were modifying the size and the location, given the addition we were putting on the back, it was no longer compliant with the current codes. So in order to continue getting the building permit, we made some adjustments, put a placeholder garage just somewhere on the plan so we could check a box, get the building permit, and get going on the main primary portion of the house. With the understanding that we had spoken with, I believe it was Chris in the zoning department, within that department, several individuals that we were looking to go through this process, but just given that time was of the essence to try and finish the home and get in place within the timeline of having the baby, that we'd be going before the board to pursue it. At that time, they said, look, we can't promise anything, but what you're asking for seems to be fairly acceptable. So we proceeded as such.
Okay, and can you describe briefly for the board what is proposed as part of this application?
Sure. As you noted, we are looking to construct a new two-car garage that is 18 feet from the street. The back quarter of the lot drops significantly. It's, I believe, roughly 14 feet. I can let the engineer confirm that. But that significantly skews the calculated average grade around the lot, or around the garage, excuse me, which drastically increases the height of the building. We are also looking at connecting the existing front porch with a side walkway to make it a wraparound porch to connect to the side entrance where there's another porch. And we're looking to cover a patio at the back so we can use it during the rain.
And can you describe for the board what is proposed in the new garage?
It is used for storage, cars. We're probably going to put some workout equipment. That's it.
And did you retain experts to help you in the preparation and presentation of this application?
I did.
And can you just tell us who they are?
I hired our architecture firm, Studio 3877, Rich Keller and his firm, and then your firm, Hillary.
And have you spoken with any of your neighbors about the proposed improvements? And if so, what were the nature of those conversations?
We have. We have walked up and down the neighborhood at a few different points. We've caught a few neighbors, not all. We wrote handwritten letters, or partially handwritten letters and signed notes to all of the neighbors on the block from Springfield down to the Bend. We have spoken directly and met several occasions our immediate neighbors on the left and right, Lisa and Ed, on the other side, Bill and Leslie, and across the street, Hallie and Matt. They're all very happy with us maintaining and preserving the historic existing cottage, and they have no issues with what we're doing. We've spoken with some other neighbors on the street, a Marcella, a Matt, I believe a Mark, and everyone has had nothing but good things to say to date. You know, we left our information on the letters we canvassed with the neighborhood, just to reach out if there are any concerns, and we have yet to hear anything, but happy to address questions, concerns, et cetera, as we outlined in that letter.
Perfect. I don't have any other questions.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Any questions from our experts?
I have no questions.
Questions from the board?
I just have one. So the work that's been done so far, that's all been permitted and none of it is?
Yes.
Okay, so.
We haven't started on the garage. The patio, we're still a ways out from that, but the patio's already permitted, just the covering part, but none of that stuff's been built.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? No?
Actually, there was a couple of comments from John Linson about trying to save the trees.
So we have the two large trees in the front, aptly named, the building's aptly named after them. One of them is not in great shape. That one has already been approved to be removed as part of the building permit. That was the one in the original comment that he had significant concerns about because there was no protection. There was no protection because it's coming down. The one that is being preserved, that has had protection, it's in good health. We have since met with him on site, clarified that, he has no issues. The only concerns he had said was, I think, asking for additional just refertilization and just whatever the right term is, I'm sorry, like decompaction, thank you. After construction is done, just to make sure that everything is safe for that tree. And we're also looking at putting a new tree in place of the one that we're removing.
And we did get this forester's report today. I don't know if you saw.
I'm not sure I saw that yet.
Yeah, I think it was probably under the agenda.
I see you started work, construction work is there, but I see in the Collier memo that the soil erosion sediment plan was submitted or not yet?
So it was.
Oh,
We have an
thank you.
approved plan. That's what
You
we
have
are
that.
building per the approved plan as it stands currently. We have not started on any elements that are associated with the variance that we're
Okay.
requesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, just to clarify, because in Mr. Linson's report here, he said, both the larch and magnolia trees on the front lawn have been abused during construction. Decompaction and fertilization are required. Are either of those the tree that you're proposing to remove, or?
No, they're not.
Okay.
One of the larches is, but I believe the two that he's referencing are, the one is that's preserved, that's in the center, and then the magnolia's on the far end, where no work has been done.
Okay, so, and you will agree to,
Correct, we will, yeah, we
Care
love
for
the
the
trees. I
trees
want to
as
keep that,
recommended.
yeah.
Okay.
We even kept the sign up on the original tree.
thank you.
Mhm.
If there are no other questions, we can move to the,
I didn't know if neighbors had
are-
any.
oh, yes, are there any neighbors here? Who would like to, anybody would like to comment, a question, not comment, sorry. The owner, if you would, come up.
Question, for questions.
Questions only, yeah, yeah.
I guess just the question would be about...
Can you tell us your name,
Sure.
please?
It's Ed Prosciutto, and I live at 11 Hobart Avenue, right next door.
Thank you.
I guess the question would be, what is the plan for storm drainage with the two-car garage, since that'll be about double the square footage of the original one-car garage? Because I know there's been a lot of issues with flooding in the back there, and that's our concern.
So the engineer is going to go through the entire stormwater management, so is it okay if we wait
Oh,
and have that
sure.
answered by him?
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the homeowner? No? Okay, so we can move on
Okay.
to.
Ryan Petchak?
All right, if you're ready, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Ryan Petchak, spelled like I have a pet yak, P-E-T-Y-A-K.
Thank you, and can you briefly describe your background and experience for the board?
Certainly. I got my master's, my undergraduate and my master's degree at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. I've been practicing architecture for 20 years. I've been licensed for 12 of those, registered in the state of Pennsylvania. I have worked on probably a dozen to 20 historic preservation projects. I've worked on probably a dozen to 20 zoning projects in Washington, D.C. with the Building Zoning Board of Adjustment. I've worked on projects with the Old Georgetown Board Commission of Fine Arts, as well as with actually the Preservation District of the City of Honolulu.
All right, and just to confirm, my understanding is you are not licensed in the state of New Jersey as an architect, but your firm prepared these plans, obviously a New Jersey licensed architect did finalize and sign off on those plans.
That is correct. My partner, David Trotz, is the licensed architect who worked on this project with me, along with my colleague, Joanna Witt. David Trotz couldn't be here this evening due to circumstances that were unforeseen, but I did work throughout the entire project with the applicant as well as the rest of the team.
Okay, so if there's any questions, go ahead. If not, we will let him speak about those plans. Hearing none. Go ahead.
Fantastic.
Okay, so can you go through the steps you took to prepare for your testimony, recognizing that you're testifying to plans that have been prepared by a member of your firm who's licensed, a licensed architect in New Jersey?
Certainly, like I said, I worked on the design throughout the project with the design team. I've met with Matthew Medvine as well as Rich and yourself. I've visited the site twice now, once before construction began, and then once during the construction of the foundations. I've reviewed the historic preservation guidelines as well as the ordinances associated with Summit itself. And I've also reviewed the comments that were provided by Hillary and her team. Or, I'm sorry, zoning and the team by Hillary.
Thanks. Can you describe for the board what is proposed as part of this application?
Certainly, like Matthew said, the original garage was a flat roof garage. What we wanted to do was to, or what he wanted to do was to bring it up to the visual aesthetics of the neighborhood by creating a pitched roof that actually matched the existing pitch of the existing home on the lot as it stands. We wanted to also utilize the front porch, as you can see at the front, and wrap it around the side to engage the rear addition at the back of the home to establish a connection between the original and the new. And then we also wanted to help Matt with providing a rear covered porch over the existing permitted porch so that him and his family could enjoy that through 3 or 4 seasons out of the year.
Okay, and the new detached garage is replacing a prior one-car undersized detached garage, is that correct?
That is correct. The original garage was non-conforming because it was a one-car garage, so we've since proposed a 2-car garage as shown here. The roof line matches the existing roof line of the existing home. We've also provided, per Matt and Kat's request, a cupola on top of the roof to match the original cupola. It is the original. Oh, you were able to say it. Fantastic. So it is the original cupola.
Yep, so I just want to point out, this is a new exhibit. This is Exhibit A1.
It looks different.
The garage has been redesigned to remove the dormers on each side.
Thank you.
So this was not yet submitted?
Not yet submitted,
It'll be A1 then?
yes.
Yeah, there was originally dormers in the original design to provide daylight into the garage space, also to try to capture some of the existing roof lines on the permitted home. Since, and after talking with Hillary and Rich and the rest of the applicant's team, we've decided to remove said side dormers on both sides of the garage. Furthermore, we utilize some of the existing pediment detailing underneath the roof line that matches the existing home, understanding that the garage would be visible from the street to provide some of that complementing architecture associated with the original structure itself. The height is 18 feet to the peak, as Matt was talking about, the site in the rear. And that's whenever at the location, at the point in which you drive into the garage. But as Matt discussed earlier, and Rich will speak on further, due to the site and grades, it is larger as an average grade due to those contours.
Because I can't see this, I can't see the numbers. Where's the 18 feet? Is it the top of the cupola, or is it where the roof lines
At the
meet?
roof line itself.
What's the height to the top of the cupola?
Cupola is roughly 30 inches tall, so it would be about 2.5 feet, so we'd be at 20.5 feet or so.
Okay, and then if you could just go through the side porch and how that is going to help with the aesthetics and the historic nature of the home.
Certainly. The idea of the side porch was to, one of the things that we did as a design team was to have a rear addition. So in terms of siting, the object was to have the rear linear addition off the center line of the existing home. But to also grab some of the new and existing architecture, we are proposing to extend the side porch from the front facade, which you can see here at plan right, wrapping around the side of the existing home and engaging with the addition at the rear. There is an existing side porch that has since been removed. This property throughout the history started with the original structure, and there were 2 subsequent additions after that. And that side porch then establishes that existing datum as it extends to the rear. We are also we documented the railing conditions on the existing porch as well as the columns and the ornamentation along the porch. And Matt and their team have since began to replicate those elements to continue that architectural aesthetic around the facade.
And are there other properties in the surrounding area that have porches and similar design features?
Yeah, thank you. There are numerous homes throughout the neighborhood that have wraparound porches, some on all three sides, some on two.
Okay, and then, can you just explain how the project reflects the design guidelines of the City of Summit and the Historic Preservation Commission?
Certainly. We've used similar ornamentation from the original. Obviously, we differentiate the new from the old. We utilize a the sighting guidelines to establish that the addition for the new structure is at the rear. The garage itself, which is what a large piece of this is sited in an area which, unfortunately, due to the grades at the rear, is where it must be relative to the home. The rear covered porch area is not obviously visible to any neighbors or the street. The scale and size of the windows and the addition itself is in line with the existing residence, as well as some of the ornamentation throughout.
Perfect. I don't have any other questions.
Any questions from our board experts?
I have no questions.
I want to follow up on the accessory structure height. We heard,
So the front elevation is 18 feet, but because of the slopes and the average grade that's around it, the height of the garage is going to be 22.56 feet.
Okay.
When
Cupola
calculated
not
from the
count
average.
into the
The
height?
cupola does not count.
okay, so the accessory structure height limitation of 18 feet is still met in accordance with our code?
No, because it's getting to the average grade
Right.
around that, so therefore they are seeking the variance.
We are,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
we're seeking a variance for the height.
I must have missed that in there. Thank you.
It was an add-on.
Gotcha.
I have a question for the architect. When you're designing this the accessory garage, was there a reason you couldn't flatten that roof in keeping with the aesthetic of the historic house, as well as what you can see from the street?
Thanks. We, at one point, looked at having a much flatter roof pitch. It starts to flatten out and starts to get wide, and unfortunately, I guess the best terminology is stumpy in a sense. It's foreshortened. So ultimately, what we wanted to do was we had an opportunity due to the adding of the width based off the second car space. We wanted to utilize that existing roof line to try to play with an harmony of what the existing residence. But we did look at, obviously, the flat roof structure, but obviously as you start to compress to meet the 18 feet over the average grade, it starts to really start to foreshorten the height of the roof line.
And I think Summit doesn't favor flat roofs.
Well, I think this could be made, you could have a garage with a roof that is pitched to code, but just a lower roof.
Correct.
And that is possible, right?
Yes, it is.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is possible, but again, when you look at it from the street, it's 18 feet. So I understand that, yes, it's from the rear of the property because of those slopes, but if you're driving
Well,
on the
it's
street, it looks
18 to me, it's really 15 feet. 18 is if you're trying to,
match,
right.
which is
match,
what they're trying
so
to do.
That's the same slope as the roof,
Of the existing residence, that's correct, the same pitch.
same pitch, yeah. Thank you.
Is there storage in the top of it?
No.
Nothing?
Well, right now, there is, the height's gonna be used for some of that,
The stuff that raises and lowers, you know, like the racks that you can raise and lower.
above the vehicle.
For cars?
But there isn't a
Well,
floor.
Above the car, so when the car's out, you can lower the racks and load pins and stuff, and then raise the seat.
Just for clarity for construction, is it a rafter system or is it a vaulted ceiling?
It's a vaulted seat.
And back to the porch, about the porch. That was never included in the original plans for the house, the wraparound porch?
The wraparound porch was not.
Why not?
It came up as Matt and the team started looking at the garage structure and trying to connect those elements.
How does that connect to the garage?
Visually connect, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was something.
You have to come up.
It was something that, since we were going before the board, my wife asked if we could ask for it since we're going through the exercise. That was the genesis of it.
Is that likely just probably aesthetic as opposed to functional because it overlooks the driveway and there's the covered porch in the back?
Yeah.
This is mostly, is it mostly an aesthetic feature?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's only 3 feet wide. It's purely for passage and connecting the 2 porch elements. So you wouldn't have to go downstairs to around the driveway and back up the side. You could just go around the porch between the 2 entrances.
Are you allowed to move the garage more forward so it's closer to the structure to avoid that steep slope problem?
I don't believe so when we were doing the siting, but Rich will speak to that more.
Okay.
Any other questions? No?
Just one last question.
Yeah.
Good. With regard to the retaining wall, is that something the engineer will speak to as far as the finishing of the wall below the garage?
Yes, Rich will be able to
Yes.
speak to that.
Thank you.
Does anybody from the board have any other questions? No? What about members of the public? No? Yes? Come up, please. State your name and address, please.
Sure. It's Catherine Palm, 24 Hobart, so haven't got a chance to meet anyone because we probably weren't home at the right time. So getting caught up in understanding the plans. So will this 3-foot sort of porch require moving the driveway over as well?
The driveway is already slid.
Okay, so you are rerouting
We're
the
already
driveway.
removing the current driveway.
over.
That's why the tree on the right is being removed, because we're sliding the driveway over. Yes.
Sure, that's helpful to understand. And you said, it sounded like you did consider putting the garage in a different area?
On the plans to get through.
Sorry, if you could just go to a mic.
Oh, sorry.
On the plans to get through permit, we'd put it kind of squat in the middle of the backyard, just to get through. That's not something that we intend to do.
Sure.
We just wanted to check the box for a car, and if there's an issue
But
here.
you could place it somewhere where it doesn't get to be 4 foot from?
So I think that the engineer will testify as to why this is an appropriate location.
Any other questions before we move to the next witness, or, no? We're good?
Okay. Rich Keller?
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And you know, you've appeared before us a number of times, including recently. Any changes to your credentials since the last time you were here?
No, I am still licensed as an engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey.
I imagine we will accept you back once again.
Thank you. So approximately back in March of 2024, we were contacted by Mr. Medvine, Casey and Keller to prepare a survey of the property that he was purchasing, and subsequently to assist with the grading plan and development plans to make an addition to the house and to provide a 2-car garage on the property. In doing that, we met with, we did multiple site inspections, we reviewed the applications, my team prepared the plans. I will say, having done a lot of work in the area, the first thing we wanted to make sure is that there was no intent to adversely impact the existing dwelling, because if that was the case, we were not going to take the project. And we were happy to hear that Mr. Medvine was, one of the principal reasons he purchased it was to protect the character of this 1848 to 1850 Gothic Revival home. Yes, there's an addition to it, but it's been pretty carefully done with historic guidelines in mind, so that the additions are placed to the lateral side and to the rear of the property, allowing the existing structure to shine through. We also met with the engineering department regarding drainage, because we understand there has been some problems with drainage down below, and I've worked at properties at the end of street where it turns into Franklin. I know there's water issues down at that area, so we vetted all of our drainage design for both the application that's under construction as well as the proposed application with both Aaron Schrager as well as his assistant. We also met at City Hall when it became, I go back 35 years as a licensed planner and engineer, and I worked with Krista Anderson for a long time. Obviously, Krista's gone. There's been an understanding in the ordinance that was a little different than we'd understood it, so we were a little surprised when we found out that when we moved the garage up out of the quote-unquote required rear yard area, and it became into what is the allowable building area for the dwelling, that you were no longer allowed to use the 4-foot setback, which is permitted for passive structures in the zone. So it was a little new to us. So when we realized that that was going to be an issue and we would have to go for a variance for that, and again, given the time constraints by the owner's family to get in, we met with both Chris Nicola and a member of Burgess Associates at Town Hall to discuss how we could devise an option to move forward. We laid out a plan where we did place a garage that was more central to the rear of the home, kind of destroying the back of the home, and also just by its location meant that we would be moving vehicles further into the back of the property, back inside of the property, but not the preferred location that was agreed to by the group when we met. We've also reviewed the administrative comments. We've had conversations over the last week with John Linson, and then today I had a conversation and responded to your board engineer's comments, which I'm going to hand out in a second. So we're familiar with the property. The existing property, as you're aware, is 100-foot wide by 190-foot deep rectangular property, fronting on the east side of Hobart Avenue. It's roughly mid-block, or exactly mid-block, between Springfield Avenue and Franklin Place. The lot area is 19,000 square feet, which is 0.436 acres, and it's wholly located in the R10 residential zone. If we look at the survey that's up on the screen, there's the property as it exists with the 2.5-story Gothic structure in the center, relatively small footprint, and the 225 square foot one-car garage, which actually was it was undersized enough to make it difficult. Probably good for a horse and carriage, not necessarily for a vehicle. And that was at the rear right off the existing house. And there was a swath of approximately 3,726 areas of square foot of steep slopes. Steep slopes in your town, the threshold is 15%. I will say this swath of steep slopes is much steeper. It's anywhere from 25 to 35%, especially right off the back corner of the existing garage. So we wanted to be careful to make sure we maintained what is allowed as an administrative disturbance of less than 1,000 square feet if we can demonstrate that there's no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighbors. And so we worked with the architect to develop a plan where we would nominally disturb that area, provide state-of-the-art stormwater management, as well as allow for proper access to the site. I'll go forward to what we would call as our applicant's exhibit number 2. This is an annotated aerial photo of the site prepared by my firm, dated today, May 5th, 2025. The image is taken from Nearmap, a high-resolution subscription service, aerial service. We get aerial photos 4 times a year, and they are to scale. This image was captured on March 19th of 2025, so it's relatively recent. You can see the site under construction as it exists today. What you'll see is right behind where we've got the garage, in the area where I'm waving the cursor, that is the area where the steep slopes come through the site. All of these properties fronting on Hobart drain into the back, into Lot 29, and that water then continues down behind Lot 24, and it continues down into the end lot at Lot 20, sort of meandering through these rear yards. When we first met with the township engineer, Aaron Schrager, and his assistant, they were very concerned that we made sure we did not exacerbate any of the flows. There's a large house under construction on Springfield Avenue, which has been discharging, especially before the roof leaders were put in, into that area. We want to make sure we were not exacerbating that, and we were careful to actually over-design the stormwater system. So we are providing more detention than is required. We did respond to a comment by your township, the board engineer. So we are actually expanding the stone area to make sure that we can accommodate all the water that goes to it. And we're being very careful about the way that water is discharged. We're not letting it flow down the slopes, those steep slope areas. We're actually taking it into the lower part and dispersing it through what's called a level spreader. A level spreader was the preferred method by Mr. Schrager and the assistant. So that's the way that that's the existing neighborhood pattern. The proposal, as was indicated, was to place an addition on the north or the left side of the drawing, a two-story addition. There was we're proposing a covered porch that wraps around off the existing covered porch, comes down the side, ties into a permitted covered porch along with a two-story addition. And whereas we got permitted for an area at the rear where it says proposed covered patio, that was actually approved as an outdoor terrace. So that patio there, we're proposing to cover that. That does add to the square footage of the building, even though it is open, as Hillary said. The covered porch, we're taking that existing porch and we are looking to wrap that around the side, as was indicated by the architect. So the front portion from where the word C is uncovered to the front, that is a part of the variance application. The covering that goes from there towards the back, towards the two-story addition, that is permissible by code. And then we are seeking to basically provide a proposed one-story, two-car garage, the required minimum 12 feet off the rear of the structure. So one of the questions was, can we make it closer to the structure? A couple things happened. One is the reason we are at 4.33 feet is because if you look at, we come down the driveway, you need to get access into that left bay. And so we need to curve and widen that driveway. So we met the township city requirement of 12 feet setback to the garage, and that allows us just enough area to deflect. The primary parking space would be on the right. The one that would be for the smaller car would be on the left. Still adequate to back up. There's no area to turn around in this site, so you would back out the driveway out to Hobart Avenue. But there's really no way to get the ordinance required two-car garage, keep it 12 feet off, and get proper turning and mobility into that space. And we didn't want to push it on any further back. Obviously, if we pushed it further back another 20 feet, then the side yard setback would be permitted at 4 feet rather than the 12 feet that's required since we moved it forward. So we're between a rock and a hard place between the steep slopes and the location of the lawfully existing dwelling at the site, in citing a conforming garage that is basically usable. We also prefer the garage facing the street. It's what the current design has. And also, if we start to slide that over, we would need to slide that to the left, probably some 24 feet, to allow mobility to get in and out of the garage, which means now we are replacing a static structure or a passive structure, which is the garage, with a turning area for a vehicle to maneuver and back out of the garage. So we felt it was actually the more neighborly thing to do, to keep the orientation as is with the historic garage facing the street, and to nestle as close as we could to allow for geometry. That limited our amount of disturbance into that steep slope area. It did mean, as was indicated, that our average grade does go up because we're dipping that back into the steep slope area. And your ordinance requires, when we calculate steep slopes, we have to measure it 6 feet off of the property. And when you go 6 feet off, it drops the average grade another couple of feet even further. So the location of the garage was carefully studied over multiple iterations, and we felt that this was the best for not disturbing steep slopes. Really wouldn't be viable in the back because I would have a 12 to 14 foot drop to get back there. So it was really the only viable location that garage could go. With regard to the variances that are necessitated, we will need C variance relief for the proposed open and covered porch additions to the single family that's currently be expanded, and replacement of the existing 18 by 18-foot 4-inch by 12-foot 4-inch one-car detached garage with the 24 by 24 2-foot garage located about 17 feet further back from the current garage. We did have an error in the zoning table. There was because we've done so many iterations, where it says 105 square feet of patio is proposed on this patio and deck. That's actually been removed. So our total coverage actually drops by 105. It goes down to 2470. It's somewhat of a moot point because we're not over on our total coverage anyways. We did not need variance relief for coverage, for total lot coverage. With regard to the engineering salient features, we did, as I said, we worked closely with the city engineers to mitigate against any stormwater runoff created by the project. All roof leaders for both the additions to the house, the existing house, as well as the one-story 2-car garage, will be routed to an array of 2 dry wells. Those dry wells are a little oversized, and actually will be oversized and a little more because we're directing so much water to them, we have to make them a little larger. Obviously, we will do soil permeability testing to ensure that the soils can handle that. We had good luck up the road. And then what we do is we take the overflow so everything goes to the dry wells, including any water that runs down the proposed driveway, which is flanked by curbing. That will go into a trench drain. The trench drain is also contributory to the 2 dry wells, shown at the center of the image, and the overflow on that, if they get high to the point where they're starting to overflow, the overflow comes out, comes behind the garage, and then it is directed down at the part where we had the least steep slope disturbance. By the way, that'll be restored, which you're allowed to do, but we did count it on our steep slopes, and that will be then discharged into what we call a level spreader. We take that pipe, it's perforated, it's set in a large area of stone, relatively flat, so the water will bubble up out of that, and it basically leaves that pipe with 0 velocity. So you're not getting a pipe that's at the bottom of a very steep slope and jetting water into that area, but it actually allows it to bubble up and trickle, which will continue to trickle off to the right side of the drawing, as we indicated on the aerial photo that I showed earlier. So stormwater management will certainly be reduced over what is existing today. There are virtually no stormwater management on the Gothic Revival home that's there. It all basically ran down the steep slopes and into that low area. So there is a net reduction, considerable net reduction of the rate of runoff into that rear area. As indicated, the design has been set to dissipate the velocity of any runoff. There'll be no erosion of existing slopes, and there's no discharging to, no direct discharge to any adjoining development. So the stormwater management was carefully considered and worked out with your city engineer, and we did respond to some of the comments from the board's consulting engineer, which I'll go over in a second when we get to the end of my testimony. So the variance is required, a C variance for maximum building coverage. 18% is permitted in the R10 zone. The existing site is 10.2%. The property under construction was for 17.4%. The proposed application will increase the building coverage to 22.13. As was indicated, that is a deviation of 785 square feet over what's permitted. But I would point out, so 351 square feet of that is to replace the existing 1-car garage with the 2-car garage. So the net difference between the 576 square foot proposed garage and the existing 225 is that 351 square feet. So approximately a little less than half of that deviation is to become compliant with the garage. 110 square feet is to wrap the covered porch around the outside. So that was that area from midpoint on the house to the front to allow that 3-foot passageway to wrap around. Not so much a circulation element as it is an architectural element to tie that wraparound porch into the side of the home and bring it into the rear. So it really contributes to the architectural and historical elements of the house. It is aesthetically pleasing in keeping with the character of both this home and other homes in the neighborhood. The proposed side porch, as we indicated, further enhances the Gothic Revival style, highlighting the architectural and historical elements of the property, which results, we think, in a home that is overall aesthetically pleasing and in keeping with the character of homes in the surrounding area. And then 550 square feet, not 560, but 550 square feet is in that back proposed covered patio. And that is, it is behind the house. It is not visible due to the location of the house. It's not visible due to existing landscaping on our property on the left side, which is remaining untouched, as well as any proposed landscaping we are proposing for the property. Basically, it carries, again, that aesthetic of a wraparound porch. Wraparound porches also, because they are open and diaphanous, they're not closed, they're open, it allows us to see through them. They actually break down the mass from the rear of the house as well as tie it together architecturally, which the side porch does as well. Certainly, this allows for the year-round, or at least three-season use of the backyard. This is a property that really does not have a lot of usable space in that backyard because of the steep slopes on the property dropping into the back. So really that whole area behind what we're calling it for the 3-foot tall fence is an area of somewhat restricted use. So we'd like to allow the applicant to at least be able to use that covered patio in a year-round situation. We are fully compliant with the total lot coverage, but it does drive up, because it's covered, it does drive up that building coverage, and it's part of that 785 square foot deviation. I will point out a couple of other comments that were made. We did provide a landscape plan. The landscape plan does call for barrier plantings or foundation plantings across the front. We are proposing in addition to keeping the trees in the front to the left of the property, shown the larch being right in the center, the 20-inch diameter larch, the 21-inch red maple, as well as the other plantings on the left side. We are removing one of the larches that's right in the middle of the proposed driveway. We are proposing to replace that with a tree. We think it's important actually to balance that composition with a large tree. I know Mr. Linson took exception to the species that we selected, which we have no problem with working with Mr. Linson to provide something other than a honey locust in that area. It would certainly be a native, non-invasive species of a tall, deciduous tree would be our preference on that. Deciduous or evergreen tree in that area, but we'll certainly run that past Mr. Linson, and we've already talked to an arborist about decompaction of both the holly, as well as, most importantly, that larch that's in the center of the area, since it did get run over by construction vehicles. So that will be decompacted and fertilized per Mr. Linson's requirements. With regard to the variance relief requested, as indicated, we need that C variance for maximum building coverage. We also need a minimum accessory side yard requirement for the garage. That is where the proposed detached garage is located within the buildable area of the property. It's not in the required rear yard, which is basically 40 feet from the back. So once it moves from 40 feet, within the 40 feet of the rear of the property, it moves up into an area which could feasibly be part of the building envelope. It does have to meet the minimum building code principal building setback of 12 feet. So if it was further back, it would be 4 feet. Once we move it up, it goes to 4 feet. It goes to 12 feet. We're proposing it at 4.33 for the physical restrictions we indicated earlier. That being the location of the existing dwelling, the additions, as well as the steep slopes, really calls for this to be the only logical spot to place that garage. And as indicated, if we were to slide that garage over 15, 20 feet, besides interfering with any use of the backyard, it means that we'd still be disturbing just as much, if not more, steep slopes, because we wouldn't be able to use the garage itself as the base of the garage as the retaining wall for down that slopes. The beauty of this plan is we're essentially saw cutting in that garage into the slope, so we're not disturbing anything below it other than just to bring that one pipe around and then down for the stormwater runoff. Otherwise, we're really just dipping that one toe into the steepest part of the site and using the building to minimize any disturbance in that area. As was indicated from the front, it certainly appears to be 18 feet, but the average grade we'll get to in a second. So I do need the variance for accessory building height. 18 feet is permitted. As was indicated, in the revised plan that was shown before you, the height from the threshold of the garage up to the peak will be 18 feet. The cupola is a permitted element to extend beyond that, so that's not considered part of the building height. But when we do look at the average grade means that our building height will be set at 22.46, I believe it is?
I think it's 5'6".
22.56. I would point out, I believe I have here, we did look at studying the garage, and as was indicated, when you no longer are matching the peak, the pitch on the existing home, you no longer get that 3-foot height bonus. You go from 18 feet above average grade down to 15 feet above average grade. And so when you lose that, combined with that average grade issue, your garage actually can only be about 10'3" to maybe 10'6" above the threshold. So that was what you see before you in this, what we're going to call exhibit applicants A3. This is a conforming garage that would work on that property given the average grades. So again, between the loss of the 3-foot bonus and meeting that average grade requirement, that's what the garage would look like. And we certainly felt like that was not in keeping with either the neighborhood or the historic character of the structure, of the existing structure. So that's why we don't take variances don't take them very lightly. We thought it was really a much preferred alternative to go for the garage with the variance, as opposed to something that was really atypical to the neighborhood just to meet the ordinance. Especially because, as was indicated in the area map, if you look behind us, is a significant different distance, more than 225 to 230 feet behind our property to the nearest residence behind us. From the actual garage, it's closer to 250 feet to the next dwelling behind us, and that's through a significantly landscaped and wooded area. So there will be no, even though it appears to be high from the backside, as it cuts into that slope, there's really no negative visual impact on the neighbors due to the wooded nature of the properties. You're coming back into the extreme rear of the property at lot 29, and you're far away from any of the housing development on the street further to the next street further to the east. So so that addresses the accessory building height. We think that all of the variances requested can be approved under C1 and C2 under municipal land use law 4055 D70. I like your planner refers to C1 as the physical features test. And this is where the physical features of the property, in this case the topography, the presence of steep slopes, and the location and configuration of the loftily existing dwelling on the property creates a hardship in developing the property without the need for variance relief. C2, and again, I like the terminology from your planner, it calls it the public benefits test. I used to do consulting for 3 years, I was the consultant to the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment in Long Hill, and if I was still there, I would steal that because it's apt terminology, and it kind of explains the nature of C1 and C2. C2 is also known as the flexible C variance. This is where the proposed plan with the deviation represents a better planning alternative to the one that is fully conforming. This proposal, we believe, balances the need for the update and modernization of the existing housing stock for this particular home itself, while maintaining the original historic and architectural character of the site. This is consistent with the goals of your master plan and the re-examination reports of the city of Summit, and is in accordance with the design guidelines in the DRO and the Historic Preservation Commission guidelines. The proposed improvements are designed to bring the existing home into current custom and vogue and to conform with interior and exterior standards and amenities as reflected that are typical of those in the surrounding neighborhood. So we think it, in order to drive home the C2, we need to demonstrate that we advance any of the purposes of the municipal land use law as enumerated in 4055 D70 D2. Sorry, D55, 4055 D2, excuse me. And we believe we advance at least 4 of those. One is the application promotes general welfare and public safety. This proposal creates an enhancement to an established permitted use in the neighborhood, and it eliminates an existing non-conforming condition by providing the required 2 garage parking spaces. It also provides for sufficient space and appropriate location for a variety of residential uses to meet the needs of the community as well as all New Jersey citizens. We think it promotes a desirable visual environment. We think it is certainly as opposed to the conforming garage. We think it is a much more visually desirable environment that we've created through the, even though it does require a height variance for the garage. And it certainly promotes the conservation of historic sites and districts. And that's J under 4055 D2. As with any application, we need to demonstrate that we meet the negative criteria. The negative criteria is in 2 prongs, that there's no substantial detriment to the public good, and there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan and zoning ordinance. We think that this proposal will neither cause a substantial detriment to the public good nor an impairment to the zone plan. Stormwater drainage is proposed and will be appropriately managed. The proposal is consistent with the character of the homes in the neighborhood. We think that the improvements are aesthetically pleasing. We think property values will be unaffected. If anything, they'll be improved. We think that the use, as we indicated, is permitted and consistent with all of the other residential uses in the neighborhood, and no other variances are implicated by the proposal. There's no degradation of air, light, open space to the neighbors. We think that it's actually it's nice to see somebody who's worked so carefully to preserve an historic home and yet bring it into the to the current century in terms of its amenities and provisions. I will. So I think I covered both the engineering and planning. I did want to hand out my response to Ms. Raffay's comments. I think I've really touched base on all of them, but I just wanted to make sure it went into the record so it'd be easier for the attorney to incorporate. And I'll go over the salient features very briefly, because I think I really touched upon them.
So I think we're up to A4. if
A4,
I'm
yeah.
not mistaken. Thank you.
And so I think the only ones that I think we basically agreed to everything requested by Ms. Raffay. We will be, as indicated, under 8A. We will be expanding the stone bed surrounding the dry wells. Since we were putting so much water into those dry wells from all the roof leaders, more than we really were required to. The dry well system, even though it was oversized, was a little undersized for all the water. So we will be expanding that through an enlarged stone area. We'll provide those calculations to the engineer, and then that'll obviously get reviewed by your city engineers if and when this is approved and go for building permits. We did indicate that all of the roof leaders will be tied in. We did clarify that as was indicated by the revised garage plans, there is no use of the second floor. There is no second floor. We took out the dormers just to make sure there would be no belief that we would try to sneak something up in there. It was never the intent, but we thought it actually was more, I personally thought it was actually more in keeping with the existing house. There was a lot of debate on that. And I think everything else, one thing was brought up by Ms. Raffay was that we should be conscientious that we're consistent with the purpose of the steep slope ordinance. And we did design this very carefully to manage that. 35-16-1H1 appears under as a response to comment number 16. And your ordinance states that the administrative officer may disregard steep slope areas that are cumulatively less than 1,000 square feet in size if in their assessment of the total disturbed area where such action would be in the interest of public good planning, not seriously impair the purpose of this chapter, and would otherwise result in practical difficulties to the applicant. We think that certainly applies here. We believe that the proposed disturbance actually represents good planning and will not impair the purpose of the steep slope ordinance. The proposed 975 square feet of steep slope disturbance will not cause any erosion or unstable conditions, will not have any negative impact on the adjoining properties, and will certainly not impede the flow of waters through the property or create any stormwater corridor that would increase flooding heights or velocities. So I think we've been pretty careful to make sure we meet that. We talked about Mr. Linson's comments. As was indicated, the site currently has a soil conservation district certification in place. Obviously, if this board would approve it, we would send them a new plan, and we would have that amended to include any additional disturbances. I think part of our original application and approval by soil conservation was pretty much for the same amount of disturbance. So I think that addresses all of Ms. Raffay's comments. I think in my testimony, I think I also directly addressed any of Mr. Selkis' comments. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board or their professionals.
Any questions from our experts?
Do I have a few clarifications? So it looks like you are increasing the size of the seepage pits to take on all of the water from the dwelling and the garage. It looks like that part of that driveway also drains into there as well. Will you be including that?
Yes, we will.
Okay, and in order to direct the water into that trench drain that's in the driveway, will you be putting in any curbing along the driveway?
I indicated earlier, we'll have Belgian block curbing on both sides of that. We'll provide a detail, and there was no call out, but yeah, we'll provide a call out that it is supposed to be both sides. The grades actually show it because there's discontinuity in the proposed contours, but there will be, as that comes down, to make sure no water runs into the adjoining properties or against our house. All that water on the driveway will be trapped against the curb, and it'll go into the trench drain, routed through the dry wells for groundwater infiltration, and ultimately, if it overflows, it'll go into the back through the level spread.
So the only reason anything would overflow is because the dry wells would be exceeding the design of 3-inch surface water.
It would have to be an extreme rain event, far in excess of a 100-year event.
So a normal rain would not be flowing into that spreader in the rear yard?
Well, I've learned that we get 100-year events every 10 years now. But certainly, it's designed to accommodate those large flows. So the average rain, even the very intense rains, would be completely captured within that stormwater system. And obviously, as a condition of any approval, as is also required under our current permit from the building department, we will be doing soil permeability testing to make sure that works. If the soil permeability is questionable, we'll design an alternate system that will still provide the velocity, the volumes you've requested, and is still protective of the neighbors from the overflow.
Could you talk a little bit about the courtyard? I think I understand that that's to be an open air courtyard, right? I mean, it's enclosed on all sides, open to the sky.
That is correct.
So there's rain coming in there, there's leaves, there's sticks, there's things like that. Could you talk a little bit about that courtyard?
Well, hopefully because it's ensconced within that two-story addition, hopefully there won't be a ton of leaves, but there is a door so you can get access to it to clean it out. And there would be a drain at the bottom, and that drain will be connected into the roof leader system, and those roof leaders are then tied into the driveways. So there will be positive drainage out of that area.
I noticed on your plans that you have the garage foundation is to act as a retaining wall. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, essentially, whether it's bolted to the top of the wall and the wall's independent, or however, that will be designed by the structural engineer. It'll be designed for those loads, so it's no different than any house with internal geo or hydraulic loading on it, so it'll certainly be designed to accommodate that. Now, a question came up, what it'll look like. The intent was originally to just do a concrete parge on that, so it'll kind of disappear into the landscape. My client is somewhat agnostic, and if the board felt strongly about any other material treatment, it's not going to be seen by any of the neighbors, but we certainly We're not planning on making it look like the garage itself was that tall. We're gonna have it sit on that concrete base and plan to park it. But that'll be structurally designed to make sure we accommodate both the geotechnical and any hydrologic loading on it.
That's all I have.
Obviously, that would be part of, that's part of like working drawings in a sense.
Just a few questions. With regard to the covered patio area, that is actually not being captured. Is it the roof runoff from that?
Yeah, that would be actually.
It would be?
Yep.
Okay, so that's not going to be captured, great.
Yes.
So therefore, that's the offsetting feature is the underground storage and infiltration.
That, it does provide, yes, because if we leave it as a patio, it runs free. If we put a roof on it, it does capture that water. And we make sure that there's detail, but that does route that through the dry wells. And again, we'll make sure the dry wells are sized accordingly.
I think you touched on this with regard to the impact of the height of the accessory structure, but the exposed portion of that retaining wall, like you said, will be parched or other material. But the largest impact is towards the, I guess the easterly property line towards the rear. But yet back there, like you said, there's a significant distance to the rear property line?
Yes.
On that side?
Yep. Both to the property line and more importantly, they're really unlikely to be any development right behind us, so we're more than 250 feet through that wooded area to the nearest development on the streets behind us.
And then on the south side of the proposed garage, it's really 4.3 feet away.
Correct.
From the adjacent property line. The height on that side will look like more of the complying height?
Well, the gutters, the based upon the roof line, obviously on that side, the architect was very careful, I'm showing on the screen, was very careful to limit the eave, the overhang on the roof to 7'11". So as we drop some 10 feet into the backyard, down that slope, that means towards the rear, you're going to be, the line of the roof will be about 18 feet above the grade. So from the neighbor's perspective, you're going to see a sloping sideline, and you'll see, let me see if that's shown here. No. So you'll see a sloping side from the neighbors, but it'll go from about 7 feet up to would appear to be about the 18 feet. Of course, that's at the gutter line. As it recedes back, you will see more height, but because the property next to us is lower, perspective means that they really will be almost, as they look from their property up and they see this, they'll actually be looking above, they'll probably be looking above the cupola to our, in that area, because the property continues to drop into that neighbor to the right. So from the neighbor's perspective, it goes from about 7'10" up to approximately 18 feet, which is what's permitted by code.
And along that side, there's a chain link fence. And is there any landscaping in there that helps offset that impact?
There's existing landscaping. We could certainly look at whether it is on the south side, so it may be an area where we could viably add some additional landscape into that area, but we could certainly study that.
I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
What's the purpose of the courtyard?
I have no idea.
Provide light?
Well, there's whole studies on the beauty of courtyard houses. It provides for a little landscaping and some light that gets into the house on a two-story part of the structure.
My previous occupation, that would be a very hazardous thing, to be up on the roof and then find an unusual courtyard in a residential structure that's not a, multifamily.
Right.
Is there some way of, I'm not the expert anymore when it comes to that kind of stuff, but is there some way to signify that on the front of the building, courtyard, or like they do it for truss roofs? Is there, not to take away from the historical view of the house and all that stuff, but it is an unusual obstacle in a residential structure, single family.
It is different, but I think,
You can see through it, so if you look at the side view, there's a sunroom. So we did it for light and air. In the sunroom, there's a giant slide double doors. During the summer and the beautiful months, we can kind of enjoy indoor, outdoor space. We use past it. So you'll see, through this, you can see right into what is the courtyard, through this element here. So, to your point, if someone was looking, if there was an issue, if I was I could wave to you from the courtyard.
I'm talking
on the
about,
street.
there's somebody on the roof
Oh, well,
during an emergency situation, they may
Got it.
not know that's there. Is there some
Yeah, well, that-
differential on the roof that signifies that?
there's
Like a flat
nothing that,
spot or
like
something?
sign, no, but
No.
there are low roofs outside the windows, so if you have to egress, there's about 3 feet, roughly, I think, 3 to 4 feet. And then on this, the upper elements, you know, obviously you can
Yeah.
see
Let
where
me
the roof stops. But
If I send a guy to the roof to vent the roof, and if there's smoke all over the place and he can't see that,
Right,
might
there's nothing that would signify that the roof stops.
And I don't think that there was anything in the fire chief's comments.
yeah, there isn't,
Right.
so. And then-
It's an interesting comment.
Yeah, yeah. And then, on the driveway side of the house, it mentions the depressed curb. Proposed depressed curb. Is that for a stairway or?
No, actually, just because we were trying, we were working with the elevations on an existing dwelling, and we're trying to create that high spot, at which
For the
water goes
drainage.
back towards the garage, towards forward. So we ended up, when you match the existing height of the house, and you come down a step out, and you come down a couple stairs, we were basically at the level of the driveway, so we call for a depressed curb at that section. It's one of the challenges of working with an existing
Mhm.
height rather than a new house.
Any other questions? I have one about the steep slope. So 975 is pretty close to 1,000,
Yep.
right? It doesn't take much to get to 1,000 with this kind of project, and especially looking with the, where you're putting the spreader in. So that area, the excavation that's shown for the pipe that goes behind the garage
Yep.
and then extends to the spreader, the part that's in the steep slope, I mean, that is a very, very narrow excavation area. I don't know what kind of equipment are you using to,
It's gonna be hand dug. It's about 18 to 24 inches wide, and it's gonna be hand dug, because all we're doing is putting a pipe.
well, hand dug on a steep slope, though? I mean, it's,
You can stand on it. I mean, this is very steep by the standards of steep slope, but I mean, you could walk on it, climb it.
I mean, it looked like a cliff when I was looking at it, so
Yeah, it's
I
not-
just
it's not a
wondering,
cliff,
like,
but
it is possible that you will be disturbing more than that. I don't know, I'm just wondering whether this is gonna get to the 1,000 and whether that, I mean, if that variance could be needed, I think that today would be the time to talk about it and not have to come back, especially given the circumstances of this, garage location. So I guess it's like, how confident are you in this 975, or
Well,
should?
one of the things that we did, you're actually allowed an exemption for utility trenching. We didn't take that exemption. So that whole utility trench down there would be exempted from the steep slopes because we're going to restore it back to what it was. But that is part of the
So
975.
that is considered
So I
utility?
think-
Or, I mean, it's not electric, it's not gas?
Well, it's still, stormwater is still utility.
Mm.
Storm storage is still
But
considered.
it's an
utility.
on-site stormwater management, it's not, I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that, well,
Well, look,
okay.
we normally, we went a couple feet beyond the wall construction. We went about 3 feet wide there for a hand dug, and it can be hand dug. But I'm sensitive to what you're saying. I mean, I think it's the most appropriate location. I would, if the board wanted to basically allow us an extra couple hundred square feet to enact this exact plan and restore it back to where it was, I wouldn't object, but I think if we're diligent, we can comply with the 975. And I've worked for a long time with your engineering department to prove that we are meeting those requirements.
so this is 1 inch is 20 feet, so you have, yeah, let's see. Yeah, all right, about, 15 feet of length there? I'm just wondering, because 25 square feet is 5 feet by 5 feet, it's not much. Okay, so that was my only question. Anybody else have questions?
Is there any maintenance required for the spreader drainage?
There shouldn't be. Obviously, you've got fairly good cleansing velocities coming down that pipe, and then it basically discharges into a riprap stone area that's wrapped with filter fabric, so it shouldn't become overly onerous on
And
itself.
that's right on the surface?
That's right. The stone is embedded 6
Mhm.
inches down, so that the top of the stone is roughly even with the grade around it. It can be blown away with, leaves can be blown off of it. Generally, because the water is lifting from the back, it just lifts the leaves and goes with it. If anything, it could just be part of the normal fall maintenance of blowing leaves off of it, et cetera. But no, it's basically maintenance-free.
How about the trench drain? Any
Trench
maintenance?
drains, actually, that is also something that we will issue a comment on our letter and on our drawing that the trench drain needs to be cleaned on an annual basis. Because obviously, there's nothing more frustrating than going out to a site and finding the trench drains full of 5 years worth of debris. But what will keep my client from doing that, besides he's a pretty diligent guy, is that if that overflows, it means eventually the water's gonna lift up and come into his garage. So it would be at his own peril to not maintain that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, do you have any other witnesses? Or actually, are there any questions from the public for this witness? Yes, please. Yeah. Here. And just please state your name and address.
Ed Prosciutto, 11 Hobart. I'm south of the property. I guess I just wanted to see, I'm not an engineer, but in terms of, is there another case study or property that's an example of a almost nearly 1,000-foot slope where this type of drainage system has been put in and it's worked successfully?
I've done a lot of work.
Microphone, please.
I've done a fair amount of work in town, in some of the steeper areas, and so I could probably provide you with some areas. We've never had a problem. I've had areas, I'm working on a project in Milburn Township right now where we had 15,000 square feet of steep slope disturbance in a much steeper area than this. It was a very unusual ordinance variance, but we've demonstrated the entire time that the stormwater management certainly was protective and there's no degradation of the soils. Obviously, water's been running down that area in the back without any stormwater management. So when we take all that water off of that slope, it certainly will, there would only be an improvement to that. And I think, obviously, we met with the city engineer as well as you've got the board engineer. I think the amount of disturbance we're talking about is relatively minor. And I think we can certainly accommodate this stormwater management system will make sure that it doesn't exacerbate any of the problems that may be associated with steep slopes, and it's a reduction.
Yeah.
And so I can probably get you some
Put it
names
on.
of other
I
areas.
was about to
but-
suggest that, yeah.
it's all work.
Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Ball saw this yet, but it might be a good idea to add that we'll retain stormwater jurisdiction on this one.
Heard that being mentioned by a few board members. Any objection,
No
council?
objection.
All right.
I just wanted to comment that Lot 29 gets some significant drainage, some flooding, not from that property, but from overall. And I know that Aaron and Mayor Fagan and everybody have been down there trying to neutralize that, alleviate that situation. I think it's due to a drain pipe, actually, that goes through, and Aaron could speak to this, but that's why I have this concern that with the footprint of this property and the garage, that combined, that it could add a lot more to it, so.
Yeah, and that's why
So-
we met with both Aaron as well as Sam when he was here as assistant engineer and the current assistant engineer, and they were very clear that there's been a history of problems, the neighbors were very concerned, and they wanted to make sure we took the suspenders and belts approach, which is what we've done and will continue to do. So it's on, not only, the board has just indicated that they will retain stormwater jurisdiction, so that means if there's any issues, this board would have jurisdiction to make us fix that. There'll be notes on our drawing that and recognition that there's a problem that we're contributing to, we'll have to fix that. And that'll be, again, reiterated when the city approves it, assuming that this board approves it. So you've got 3 levels of comfort.
And just so you know, that stormwater jurisdiction will be for a period of 2 years after the completion of construction. So if you notice any changes, any issues that result after that time period, bring them to the city's attention, and we would bring the applicants back before the board at that point.
Great, that was gonna be my next question, what if it doesn't work, so.
Yep.
Could I just ask another general question? I don't know who this pertains to, but when you're, because I've never built a house, we have a ranch next door, and so the biggest thing we did is a bathroom. But, when you're doing this kind of work, do you, you seem to have a place marker for the garage, but wouldn't everything get approved at the same time, or is that not the case, that you can piecemeal a house and garage? I don't mean this to sound derogatory in any way, but, wouldn't everything be collectively thought about and approved at the same time, meaning the garage and the home?
No, not necessarily. I'll just say, you get these instances on a number of occasions. Applicants can come in and get a zoning permit as long as no variances are triggered based on, a single application. And then if plans change or if additions are added later on and variances are triggered, that's the only time the board is actually brought in to hear the case. So it's not uncommon.
Okay.
And that gets back to my first question of the evening, that all the work that's going on right now is permitted.
Mhm.
None of it requires variance, what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and we're fine with all the work that's been done now, but I know it's a small thing with the garage, and I even just think, personally, my comment aesthetically with the historical value of the home.
Sir, we're going to just say, if you can save the comments for a little bit. We're almost to public
20
comment.
seconds.
I didn't
We're
know
almost,
that, but-
that's okay.
All right.
Any other questions? And then we'll get to the comment part in a little bit.
Just one real quick one. When your survey of the property, when you were out there, I assume you went there, there used to be a trench that ran from the back of lot 29 all the way down to behind Summit Truck Body toward the train tracks. Does that trench still exist? It was literally about that deep, hidden by a bunch of pack of sand.
Yeah, that trench was actually off our property.
Mhm.
It starts, I believe, about 75 feet further to
Okay.
the south, and it picks up, and it's actually would be just behind the common rear line as it starts, because I've done work around the Summit
Okay.
Truck Body and the property. We looked at analysis of the corner lot, possibly developing that low area there.
Mhm.
We worked at other stuff on Franklin Place, so we're aware of it. It actually starts further up.
Okay.
But it is there to my knowledge.
And that's the help with I don't know if that was done by the city or by the neighbors or what, but it's been there a long time.
Nature helps those things
Yeah.
too. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the public? No?
Okay, I do not have any more witnesses, and I usually do a closing, but Mr. Keller did an excellent job, and he hit all of the points that I was going to say, so we have nothing further.
Okay, great. So we'll go over the conditions and then.
Public comment. at this
Public
point.
comment, that's right. All right, now is the time for public comments. Yes.
So I'll have to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you just spell your last name for the record, please?
Proshuto.
Thank you.
I guess, not maybe so much a comment, but just a question, like, is there an option for a one-car garage? Because I think, and then my comment, wouldn't that be kind of keeping with the aesthetic and the historical value of the home as well? And I guess, as we saw the home go up, and it looks great, and you really did keep it so much intact, but added a nice sort of modern element to it too. But I guess we had envisioned maybe a little bit of it, and that was so nice that you kept the top of that garage, that little point. I guess we always had all along thought, well, they're just gonna put the garage kind of in the same area and kind of give it that same, one-car garage, which is what we have. Only a horse and carriage fit in there. And I know you have to be practical and you've got a family and all, but is that at all a option, or was that ever consideration, or?
So I'm just going to jump in real quick. In that zone, they're required to have a two-car enclosed garage.
I heard that before. So a one-car garage is non-conforming?
Correct, it's not conforming.
So our one-car garage is non-conforming?
Correct.
Existing non-conforming,
Yes.
that's different. It's once you disturb your property, then
Ruh-roh.
all kinds of things, yeah.
Welcome to zoning.
Yes.
Well, that was my only comment.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah,
And can you please state your name, spell your last name?
sure. It's Catherine Palm, P-A-L-M, like a palm tree.
All right.
And,
just address, please.
Oh,
again.
sorry, it's 24 Hobart
Thank you.
Avenue. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have learned so much about the project, like getting caught up and all of the interrogation of the stormwater issues, because I was concerned for knowing that there had been issues in the past on the sort of east side of Hobart. So that's really great. I think my only comment is just more general to say I'm sure this is something that everyone struggles with in keeping a balance in town, but the sort of situation where it's the situation where you can have these like ordinances about bulk lot coverage and things like that, but then build within them, having taken down parts, and then say, hey, but we have to put up a 2-car garage. Seems like it might slightly defeat the spirit of trying to not overbuild the lots. And I think in this case, it's all really well designed. It's probably gonna look fine, but I think that's something to keep in mind, that this is a way that anyone could sort of continue to build way over what the designated lot size is. So that's it.
Thank you. And any other public comment? No? So now we can hear our conditions.
Now we can get there. All right, so I have 3 conditions noted. First,
Okay.
compliance with those conditions in the board and engineer's memorandum. Second, that the applicants will perform decompaction and fertilization of the larch and magnolia trees, which are to be preserved in accordance with the recommendation of the city forester. And the applicant will consult the city forester regarding the planting of a replacement tree on the property. And the third and final condition, the board shall retain stormwater jurisdiction for a period of 2 years after the completion of construction.
Can
Once
we
again,
Perhaps, I'm not sure if we want, because of those 2 trees in the front, I happen to be on the Shade Tree Advisory Committee as well, and they were talking about maintaining landscaping jurisdiction for a period of 3 years on, when there were considerations like that, like trees you're worried about, are they gonna make it or not, and, with
council,
this.
any?
If it dies, we're gonna replace it.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
we like the trees, we don't
No,
plan
no
to
objection.
them, so we're fine.
All right,
Okay.
we will add that in as well. Landscaping jurisdiction for a period of 3 years after the installation, or after, I
The
suppose,
decompaction
completion.
or whatever, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, once again, only C variances are at issue, so 4 votes are required to approve.
Can I ask a question about that, keeping landscaping jurisdiction? How would that work? Are we just talking about just specifically in that front yard area, or what, how broad
I
would
think
that work?
it's whatever, John, whatever they come about with John, because there are a couple things that are unresolved, right? So there's a tree that's gonna be placed in the drive, next to the driveway. If it doesn't take it, it'll have to be replaced.
So it'd be
That's it.
jurisdiction over what the forester recommends?
Over the
or-
tree replacement
Okay.
and tree maintenance,
Okay. Perfect.
in the front yard, we'll
Yeah.
phrase it that
Yeah,
way.
okay, that's good. Okay, who would like to open up with executive
I'd like to
session?
start.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you to the homeowner. Really, really, really appreciate that you kept the house, the historic house. I walk by that property probably a couple times a week. And when I first saw construction going on, since you didn't have to come to the board, since you didn't have a variance, I was getting very worried because I've watched too many houses get knocked down because somebody who's new to town decided that's what they want to put, they want to live in the town, but didn't think the historic significance of our town mattered. So really appreciate that a lot. I think what you're doing is great. I think you've covered a lot of the issues, with the stormwater, which is one of the biggest issues, and just, a lot of people come to the board, say they want a modernized house. You're doing that, but you're also keeping it, keeping keeping our town looking the way it should look. Thank you. So I can support this. application.
Yeah, I'll just add that I thought Mr. Keller's testimony was excellent, excellent combination of engineering and planning. And he made a very excellent argument why this application does not provide a detriment to the public good. So I think the proofs are met. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. I commend you as well. I hope you have a long life there with your family. It's going to be a beautiful house. Just the technical things, I mean, the garage height variance is driven by the slope. So I think they make a convincing argument that from the front, it'll be 18 feet, from the back, it'll be much higher, but it's not seen from the back. There's not much back there for people to see, or not many people will see it from the back. So I can enthusiastically support this one as well.
Anyone else?
One of the things I always struggle with is when a building's already under construction and then they come in with with plan changes. And, we hear, oh, we're very thorough and we designed this house for our liking, and then we realize we need to have a covered porch or whatever the case may be. But in this case, it's aesthetically pleasing, really doesn't affect the neighborhood at all. The garage, I'm doing a little bit of history lesson here. I used to sleigh ride on all those houses right there when I was little, broke my chin a couple times. I know the drainage problems back there because they existed when I was little, so it's getting worse, I think. But this drainage system that you've designed will certainly help that. I wish we could have done that in other instances, but you guys are doing a great job. I truly do appreciate you keeping the historical aspects of the house. I know last year when I was doing something for the city of Summit, I walked the neighborhood, and that was a big thing that the neighbors were concerned about, is losing the historical value. I think that's like the second or third oldest house in town, if I'm not mistaken. So it's got a lot of historical value. So thank you very much for keeping as much of that as you can. And I can support this application. All the pros are met. I mean, everything's taken care of, so you cover all the bases. So I can support this application.
Move to approve?
Second?
So move.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution.
There's another
Yes.
one on Broad Street, Morris Avenue, down by the border.
That's,
You're up. Nicole, you're up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that someone was talking. So we have resolution for zoning board application 24-2252. This is for 144 Beekman. The applicant had requested variance relief to reconstruct a garage that was destroyed in 2023 by a large tree. The members that can vote on this are Mr. Malay, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Steiner, Ms. Chifo, Mr. Feskins, and Vice Chair Zahn. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
second.
Mr. Malay?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Steiner?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Get a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn?
Oh.
Thank you,
Point of
Nicole.
personal privilege before you do that.
Oh, okay.
This will be Nicole's last
That's
meeting
what I
with
was
us.
gonna say.
Oh, no.
And
guys.
she's moving back to where she belongs. And I understand we'll have a new secretary, but we don't know who at our next meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Wait, can I have a
thank you for all you've
request for
done.
this? Can I have a request for the new secretary? I was gonna write an email today. Is there any way we can get the package earlier? I mean, this week was really tough. I didn't get to pick it up till today because I didn't find out till Wednesday, and I was away Thursday and Friday, and the offices are closed on Saturday and Sunday. It used to be a lot easier when they delivered them. I mean, can we get back to that?
So I do know that fact that because there is no secretary right now, the job is literally being split between 3 people who also have other jobs. So,
Really?
yes.
Can we get like somebody like Joe, somebody to deliver the packages?
Well, so
You
that's
want me
the
to
other
deliver the
problem.
packages?
Yes, please.
So that's the other problem, because then you need to have one of those people take the time out of their day and deliver to every single person here. And unfortunately, I just don't think we have the staff.
Well, actually, when this came up and they made the change, I asked, does city council get theirs delivered?
No.
And the answer is they don't. So I figured if they didn't,
Well,
we
no,
didn't.
and they were trying to get that changed. I talked to one of them, they were, one of the council members.
Yeah,
Yeah.
used to, but that also, it created problems, so. Yeah, I would ask everyone to be patient with the new person, give them a couple of months just to,
They're new, like a new, permanent?
yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Will be nice.
To my understanding, May 12th is her first day. So yeah, just be patient for a couple months, let her adjust a little bit. This was an adjustment for me, and I've done meetings before. It's just zoning board is a different animal. So yeah, I just asked.
It's a beast.
Yeah.
And Nicole, I also noticed you send emails at odd hours on weekends a lot. too.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that too.
I appreciate that.
No,
We actually talked about that, didn't we?
yes.
Move to adjourn?
So move them.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.